said, no, compare the proportion of school shooters that are white versus violent criminals that are black, because that was the basis of the monologue.
I mean, Keir Starmer's not.
Well, he did make a call about this.
No, Keir Starmer is every bit as enslaved as Donald Trump is. It is illegal. It is a crime for which you can be arrested in Britain right now, criticizing Israel.
I want to cut my off and scramble my brain with fucking fluoride. I'm gonna win because Netflix is worth $3 trillion. I can't believe the dollars are this high.
It's a society that hates God. It's a society where the family is completely deconstructed and destroyed. It's a society that hates Nazis but loves communism.
You're always confronted with the same stupid question. You know, does Israel have a right to exist? Does Israel have a right to exist? The real question at this point is whether the rest of the world has an obligation to put an end to this. Put an end to this. Put an end to this.
Absolute banger intro for the new show that we have coming to you today, brought to you by Foul Brawl Productions through NAV, the New American Vision. I wanted to, he's going to do a solo show, but I wanted to introduce him so that he wasn't coming, right at you out of nowhere on the NAV channel. But this is what we've been trying to do is build some type of, foundation of smaller creators so that we could collaborate and grow together, the like-mindedness that comes with it. Obviously, the intro, like I said, banger intro. You get a you get a cameo from Tom Foe in there, and then you obviously have Fuentes and Sam Hyde. These dissident right figures. And I'm gonna let you kind of explain, where you kind of want to take this show, what is to be expected in the near future. Obviously, it'll be in the same ballpark of something similar to what we do and what you've done, and a combination of all of that. But yeah, dude, appreciate you for being here. Appreciate you for coming on. Appreciate you for contributing. Hopefully we can continue to build something together, dude.
Hell yeah, Zeb. And I mean, thank you very much for the opportunity. I mean, we did our show together a few weeks ago and it was great. A great response. Everybody had a fantastic time. And then you offered me this spot. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, it can't be just another version of what I do, the MFR podcast on Foul Ball Productions. Right. It's got to be something different. And the one thing that I was like, man, I do this with my friends. I'm always recommending them the cool conversations, like whatever YouTube video I listened to that was just like, damn, that was so sick. Like, for instance, Right Wing Coalition, Joey, I found his video about Jordan Peterson months ago, and I sent it right over to my friend. I was like, bro, check this out. This is so interesting. And so that's my natural kind of default way of being. And then I thought, well, I mean, I listen to tons of these podcasts. I listen to so many of these different conversations. It would be very cool if we could have like a weekly roundup of like the best, most interesting, most inflammatory, the sort of, the news of what's going on like in these podcasts and conversation spheres. So that was the idea behind the show.
Yeah, dude. I'm looking forward to it. I don't have a ton of time to sift through all the podcasts or even the content in general that I would like to. You bring up Right Wing Coalition, dude. I had him on and I thought it was a fantastic conversation. I think he is extremely intelligent, obviously well spoken, and he's got his book that he pushed out like last week, American History Z. I always mess that one up because I always want to go back to the to the other
movie.
But yeah, I mean, I would like some of this kind of taken in. How we have Groyper Report. I don't have time to watch Nick Fuentes. I don't have time to watch you name it. I don't know who all you're going to throw in there. Maybe you can give a relative plethora list, or we can just tell them tune in on Sundays at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. We got that. We got
a little miscommunication in the back there with the time.
It is what it is, man. It is what it is.
Y'all are on the East. I'm in Texas, so.
I'm excited.
I definitely that's exactly the idea, is to cover like the dissident right, creators. And there's a lot of up and comers like Tom Foe, like Joey, like these guys who are newer on the scene, but are having a great impact. And I definitely I have a video for later that I want to talk about that Tom did, and conversation with Joey. And I think that's like the most interesting thing. I'm probably not going to cover Fuentes too much, even though I do watch everything he does. I feel like because of the Groyper Report already existing, we don't really need to retread that ground, unless, of course, it's like, some collab like Jake Shields or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, I'm just going to kind of stick to basically everyone other than Nick, because there's a whole show on this channel dedicated to that exact thing. So
yeah.
But that's nothing to say. That's no comment on Nick. I'm a big fan. I'd call myself a Groyper, but I'm too old. It's just corny.
How old are you, dude?
41. Well, I'll be 41 in May.
Oh, nice. We got a little boomer insight into the nav sphere. The nav sphere.
That's right, man.
Hey,
Yeah,
dude,
no,
we got to level it off a little bit. I tried to create this podcast not too long ago called The Generationalist. Obviously, they were a little bit older than 40. It was a Rodney that some of these guys know here. Rodney was on there, and then Jack Rock was on there. We called it Generationalist. We try to communicate the difference between generations, and it was a good podcast. We had a good time. It just, the communication was extremely difficult just because of really a language barrier, I guess, is what it would boil down to. But
well, I have that.
yeah,
Both my parents are boomers, right? And I have that problem with them sometimes because I'll have like conversations with them. Like, and I remember this was like years ago when this term had actually kind of peaked and was over. But I was talking to my mom about SJWs, and she goes, "What's that?" Like, she didn't, like the amount of touchstones, the amount of things that we like, there's just common parlance for us. They have no idea what you're talking about. And you're just like, oh, Jesus. Okay. But I feel like, Gen Z is a really interesting subject of study for me. I mean, I feel like that's how I ended up like talking to all y'all, because I just came across it and I had no idea what was going on with your generation, with the men of that generation. I did a video about it because it was so fascinating to me how just based and principled and educated and like on the ball the Gen Z like men of the right were. And so that was just so enlightening to me. So I feel like I've just kind of been stumbling down that rabbit hole ever since. And as far as I can tell, that is the front line of the political conversation. I feel like, including Nick, but that's where you're getting the best insight, the most acute criticisms, the actual having like a vision for the future, like a plan, ideas. And so I'm that's why it's like I'm like this kind of misplaced millennial, you know what I mean? Or I'm like, I think these guys are these guys are the shit. Let's go.
I don't think you're alone, man. We talk about the baseness of Gen Z and what essentially what's coming. I would also kind of carry on with that is it's leaking upward. Like for you, for instance, it's leaking. People, once you get this is why I took some of the debates I've taken recently is you have to get these ideas out there, right? If we just sit here and me and you talk back and forth, it's not really going to get us any real growth. You got to stretch out. And so taking these debates is not to convince the destiny acolytes that we're right. It's to get the ideas out there, because the ideas, once people understand where the ideas actually are and that they are coherent, then they start to latch on a little bit. And I do think it's bleeding upwards. And as I mentioned Rodney earlier, he is kind of taking a little bit. He's kind of taking a little idea under his wing here. He's but yeah, no, I'm really excited for the show, dude.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm pumped. It's cool to be here for your audience. That was a good instinct to introduce me to them, because they might just be like, "Who the fuck? Where's Atlas? Where's Zeb? Who the fuck is this guy?"
Yeah, the mix-up was Atlas was going to introduce you. It's the thing with me and Atlas is we can never get on the same schedule. Like we're like I think we're 2 weeks behind or 2 weeks late on a Joe Kent show that we're still going to do. I don't even know if it's scheduled still or not from 2 weeks ago. But we're going to do it. We're going to get to it eventually. Me and Atlas, I don't know. We just work opposite schedules. We have families that doesn't line up very well for either of us. There he goes in the chat. What's up, brother? And
Speaking of bridging or introducing these ideas to the boomers, I actually sent Atlas's video about Joe Kent to my boomer mom.
Nice.
Yeah, because it's like, Nick always says don't red pill your parents, but like I'm working on it. I'm chipping away, a little bit here there. I'm not, I'm not overwhelming her. Yeah. But I swear to God, in a few months, I'm gonna be able to get her to listen to Nick. I'm like this close.
All right, brother. Well, it's about 10 minutes into this thing. I'm gonna let you go, let you take you on your show solo. That's how you're gonna do it, and more than welcome if you want me on, or Atlas, or Josh, or whoever else to bring on the show. You're more welcome.
Anytime you want. You guys are welcome.
I'm glad we could do this, and I'm gonna let you go, brother. I'm gonna drop back. Listen, I'll be in the chat too. So
fucking A. Thanks, man.
Take it easy. Have a good one, big guy.
Have a good one, homie. All right, alone at last. Alone at last. How's it going, folks? Okay, so yeah, like I said, that's the idea. Basically, what I want to do each week is break down these conversations. You know, not necessarily doing like a react stream, but like kind of highlighting the moments that I thought were the most interesting or the most thought-provoking, maybe the most cutting-edge ideas that I think are, you know, part of the conversation, because that's the intro that I made. I saw someone... we uploaded the intro onto this channel solo, and someone was like, "I missed the old editor," and I was like, "That hurts, that stings." But no, it's I made the intro, so don't worry. You know, I think it's Atlas is he's still editing. Don't worry, it's this is just for this show. But the reason I chose the like cyberpunk theme and the idea of like all those guys like listening to these podcasts in these different scenarios is because I feel like this is where. Like, that's where the conversation, the front line of the conversation really is on the internet, on these podcasts. And we do kind of live like in a weird, like cyberpunk dystopia corptocracy that, you know, I felt reflected well in that theme. So that's why I chose that. And that's what this is going to be. So no more telling you what it's going to be. We're going to get into it. Oh, you had to take the Ken stream down? Ah, shit. All right. That was the old editor. Okay. All right. So we're going to get right into it. Now, I thought Atlas and Zeb were going to be here for this, and I wanted to pose this question to them because I find this guy to be particularly interesting in just how controversial he is. So maybe y'all are familiar. If you're not, you know, maybe, you know, take a look, see what you think. But there's this content creator out there named Vrillium, and he has this... let's say reputation. He's got a past, and a lot of people don't necessarily. They're hesitant to embrace such a guy with such a past, and like it's a lot if you look into it. But he has been on an ascension. You know, I started watching him just a few months ago, and he had like 11,000 subs. Now he's close. He's pushing 100,000. I mean, that's 10x in a few months. That's incredible. Kind of unheard of. And he puts out a lot of content, like 3 videos a week, which. You know, for me, I think is actual. It's kind of impressive, and maybe a tad suspicious. You're like, how are you that prolific? How are you that productive? It's pretty because there are edited videos, and he also does live streams. I'm like, does this guy just live in his studio and has like a team running around editing like it's Fox News or something like that? He's always pumping stuff out. But I happen to like the content. You know, for me, it's funny. I had Joey Right Wing Coalition on my show a few weeks ago, and he was talking about he doesn't like Vrillium. He's made that pretty clear. And I have a buddy who's actually on the far left, and he hates Vrillium too. And it's like Vrillium's like pissing off the far left and the far right, pissing everybody off. For me, it's more like, look, you know, I think I was talking with Tom and Joey about it, and they're like, I still feel like he's a leader. And I'm like, that's fair. I think that's totally possible he's not a leader. For me, I don't, you know, we don't need everyone to be leaders. In my opinion, you know, it's like first of all, we got Nick, we'll follow him. But more than anything, it's more like that's like a nexus or an outlet of information. Is the information good? Is it valuable? Does it help me kind of understand, you know, the broader political, scene, the world, all that information? Is it good information? And that's my biggest thing. Well, the question is the information good? And it's a little inconsistent because he put out a video a few weeks ago. I'll just play it and then I will point out what was not accurate right from the rip. So this is Vrillium's video called "The Nukes That Don't Exist." So let's watch a little bit of him.
This was the most advanced intelligence operation of the 20th century, and the main culprit was Ben Shapiro's uncle.
Okay, so the claim that he just laid out there, right, is this guy, I think his name's Zaslav Shapiro, was most personally responsible for getting Israel their nuclear program, getting them this enriched uranium so they could build their missiles. And then he says that guy was Ben Shapiro's uncle. Okay, I cannot substantiate that anywhere. Any of the research that I've done, any different vectors that I've tried to look into to see if that's true, I cannot find that as accurate. And he builds so much of this video around that fact. Now, I don't know how he established that fact. I don't know how he's proven that. The only thing I could find was a Reddit post that had a screenshot of a Grok, like a Grok search or a Grok query, and it was weird because it was a little off. Like, you know, you know, you take a screenshot, it's a perfect screenshot of your desktop, but this one had like a weird tilt to it, which makes me think that it was edited. I can't substantiate this at all. Now, the video is still up. I guess he hasn't got a cease and desist from the Shapiro attorney and families, but I just found that to be odd. Like, that's a pretty audacious claim to not be able to easily verify that. Like, there's certainly lots of information and facts and stuff out there that are lesser known, harder to pin down, maybe, you know, obscure, but that should not be hard to identify as accurate. And I can't identify it. I cannot validate that. And that's like, so much of this video hinges on that. So we're going to watch a little bit of this. I don't want to spend too much time on Vrillium, but I just wanted to kind of, I was really hoping I hear what the boys thought about him. But Zeb sent me $4.99. Thanks, brother. Thanks for the super chat. First one off the rip. Vrillium is peak gaming the system. Well, that's okay. That's an interesting take, right? It's like, he's definitely, look, I'll say this for Vrillium. He's talented. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to make these videos. They're very well produced. They're compelling. He structures them in chapters. He has good, like sound effects and stuff that keep you compelled to watch it. And he knows what topics work. That's a talent into itself. You know, it's like, you think you just tap the viral button on any subject that has like virality attached to it, and bam, you're just gonna, that video will do well. Not in my case, and not in a lot of other people's cases too. It's kind of tough to know exactly what the button to push is, and he seems to know it, and his videos do really well. And like I said, whether or not he's got like a whole production staff or not, he's working his ass off. So the videos are good. There are a few things about Vrillium that I don't appreciate. I hate that internet thing that he always does. The fa! Oh, man, I hate that. And I hate the way he says folks. Folks! Why does he pronounce the L? I can't stand that. Folks! It drives me nuts. Anyway, so his I think Nick Fuentes now follows him, and his ascendancy is undeniable. But is he a good vector for information? Is he a good resource? Should we, utilize him? Do we include him at the rallies? I don't know. That's the question. So I don't know. That's why I find this one so compelling. I find the controversy of Vrillium so interesting. But thank you for the super chat there, Zeb. I appreciate you. I mean, I can't argue with the fact that he's gaming the system. But let's watch a little bit more of his video. Oh, Atlas saying, don't know the full story on him, but I know it's rough. Rhetoric is being pushed, though. That's true. I will say he's very transparent about that. He's very open about his past. He's not hiding it. And he claims that he went through, like Orthodox religious passage, which was very involved, and that he's, found the light. I think, look, if that's true, he's not grifting. Great. Good. He found the Lord. Like, that's fantastic. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess it comes to your own personal subjective assessment. For me, it's more like, are his videos enjoyable? Is the information in there useful? That's how I look at it. So that's just my personal take, and quite frankly, that's how I feel. I think he's valuable on that front. That's my own opinion, though. Not invited to the cross. Yeah, no, he's got to sit that one out. But we'll say hello.
Folks, welcome back to The Narrative with me, your host, Vrillium, the host with the most and the most unregistered plutonium. Folks, I think we all grew up with the prequel trilogy, but seems another trilogy is coming our way. Of course, I'm speaking about this new Middle Eastern war. Folks, it is officially...
You hear that? That drives me nuts. Folks! My friend... he thinks it goes back to his days of being like a non-binary genderqueer guy where they do the FOLX. And I'm like, I think you might be right about that. That might be correct. Folks. It bugs me so much. And he's from New Jersey, which is where I'm from. I was born and raised in New Jersey. And based on the content of his videos, I've pieced together that we grew up in the same area. And no one I know, no one in my family, none of my friend group, no one that I grew up with in that whole state says that. No one says folks. What is that, Vrillium? Stop it.
Rock 3.
At this hour,
a short time ago.
With no end in sight.
That's funny though, using that weird guy who likes the Star Wars trailers and cries about them as like the boomers getting pumped for the next Iraq war. Funny. I don't know. I sit here and think like, that's good content. That's funny. And it's reflecting something accurate that's going on in our country. So yeah, I don't know. I like Vrillium. I feel like I have to defend that, but I do like him.
Cite competing reports from the White House and CENTCOM and all sorts of other issues. A lot of people are starting to think that, yes, this is Iraq 3, that we are about to reach the same level of boots on the ground, the same level of international issue as we did with the Iraq War, but 10 times worse. Need I remind everyone that Iran is probably 10 times the country's nuclear capabilities. It's been used before. By who, you might ask? Well, our friends in Israel. Yes, the doctrine of nuclear ambiguity finds its origins in Israel. It's actually the defining part of Israel's nuclear doctrine, sometimes jokingly referred to as Schrodinger's nukes. They exist. We know that they exist, and yet they don't exist. And of course,
so what do you guys think? I mean, do you think, what's your opinions on Vrillium? Do you guys hate him? Do you feel like, this guy's fake and he's a grifter? Or do you think, if he's providing valuable information, then it's worth consuming his content? I mean, obviously, there's a section of the YouTube algorithm and audience that does think that he's offering something very valuable. I tend to agree, especially considering we're wrapped up in this war with Iran, right? It's like, who knows where it's going to go. And this Israel acquiring nuclear missiles is very relevant to that conversation. So him putting this out there in a detailed, like documentary style where we can kind of consume this information, instead of reading, 4 books on the subject, you can get like a pretty, a tight 20 or 30 minute video he's got. 25 minutes to like get like the broad strokes, the overview, and to get all these details. For me, I think that that's valuable, right? I think there's a reason why Alex Jones named his show InfoWars, because that's really what a lot of this comes down to, is information, narratives, details. It's a whole Judeo-Christian thing, right? It's like, that's just, if you don't question that, you don't look into any of the backdrop on that, you're like, oh yeah, that's just what we have here in the United States of America. It is the first book of the Bible after all. And it takes some digging. It takes someone to investigate that, make videos, write a book, make content, write the information that you need to consume to understand what bullshit that is, right? So I feel like that's the truth about so much of this. I mean, I watch like every show Nick does. I find him absolutely fascinating and brilliant and insightful. But if you watch his monologue, I mean, half the time, what's he doing? He's educating us on the situation, right? He does that as a way of him flexing his own muscles or helping him understand the situation better. But in my perception, the entire thing is letting us in to the inner walls of this conversation that you just don't really get anywhere else in media, certainly not in mainstream media or mainstream press, without a degree of insight and knowledge that like a Nick Fuentes has. So that's what I feel like the goal of a lot of this is, that people do on the right wing, on the internet, is to enlighten, to offer perspectives that maybe people haven't had before or haven't heard before, or to put together the pieces and be like, okay, this is what they're saying is happening. Here's what's actually happening. So my point is, like, if Vrillium is contributing to that in a positive way, good. I don't have a problem with it. Now, it might be your own subjective taste. Maybe you think this guy, that past of him, wearing dresses is a little much, and that's fair. But for me, I feel like if the information's valuable and the content isn't a chore to get through, I'm here for it. Astro Robot, he's all right. The folks thing is kind of gay. I agree. It's just irritating, and I don't know where it comes from. And it's those little things that he does. It's like, I don't hear the fa anymore because he does it so much. But the first few videos of his I was watching, I was like, why does he use that same sound effect like 10 times a video? I hate it. And I don't even know where it comes from. It's just one of those things. Zach Bartlett, I have a hard time believing any of these major commentaries are not Fed or Fed adjacent. That's fair. I think it's healthy to be skeptical, but I also think it's more important to base that in some kind of observation, because Nick hasn't been doing a show all week, and he's not doing it this week either. No Nick for 2 straight weeks. I'm having trouble with that. But I went back into the archives and I watched his show that he did right after Tucker and Candace had that sit down and talk shit about him. Bro, I didn't know a lot of that stuff. I didn't know a lot of that history. And his Fed accusations for Kent and especially for Tucker are whoa, like, why does no one, this still should come up. Those details should still come up because they were so like organized, detailed, insightful, correct. And I feel like stuff like that is more like, I think it's good to be skeptical, but I feel like it becomes just kind of conspiracy theory paranoia if it's not based in any fact. But I think it's healthy to be skeptical. Folks, Atlas. Ryan Dawson's documentary on how Israel stole the bomb to me was one of the best sources on the subject. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to take a look on that because it's very fascinating. This clown is pure grift. Look, runs the gamut, obviously, right? Running the gamut here on opinions. You know, I think that's why I kind of like talking about Vrillium, because I feel like he is controversial and everyone's got an opinion. And it's like, fuck it, let's hear it. Yo, what's up, Todd? How you doing, brother? Yes, sir, man. New show every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central. The Right Wing Pulse. Good to see you, Todd. What's going on? All right, let's get a little bit more of this Vrillium guy, and then we're going to move on to the things I actually want to talk about.
According to the UN, they've never existed. Now, Tucker Carlson has covered Demona. He has even lightly covered what I'm going to cover today, but not nearly at the length he should have, and didn't really get to the core of the issue. See, this is because Israel managed to acquire a nuclear missile via something called diaspora politics or diaspora science. Before we get into all that, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell.
Or known under other names as international or worldwide coincidencism. My buddy Vidge calls the Jews the coincidence crew. And I would say that's rather apt. Yeah, it's just diaspora. That's all it is. It's not a connected network across the world working in concert. That's racist, what you just said. when we say it, it's fine. When you say it, racist. Gotcha.
To get notified whenever I make a new post. Follow me on all the platforms. I mean, come on, guys. We know this stuff. We're not building a nuclear bomb here. Until then, our story actually begins in the United States, in a town called Apollo.
All right, well, we're going to move on from Vrillium for now. If you want to check that out, look, I think it's interesting. You know, I'd like to hear everyone's take on Vrillium because I think it's hilarious how much he rubs people the wrong way. And for different reasons. Like I said, you know, like Joey, Right Wing Coalition, is really far on the right and hates him. And my buddy is like basically a Marxist and hates him. And it's just like that's such an interesting why. Like why does he bug everybody so much? I find that so funny. All right, let's talk about so we'll talk about Sneako. So Sneako this week had on that guy, Professor Jiang. If you all are familiar with that guy, Professor Jiang, he went viral a few months ago because he also, like Nick, had predicted that Trump was going to go to war with Iran. And then he did it, you know, well before Trump got elected. And then the video came back, went viral. Now he's sort of everywhere. So he was on Sneako's show, and he also had on Dave Smith. And I happen to be a fan of Dave Smith. I find him kind of, I don't know, less interesting than I felt like I used to. Like I still watch a lot of his stuff, but I don't really hang on every word anymore or watch every single stream. I check it out. I like it, but I feel like this should be his moment. I feel like every video of his I should watch, he should be killing it because he's like the anti-war party libertarian guy, right? And when I watch his stuff, I'm just kind of like, yeah, man, I've heard you say all this stuff before. It's not particularly novel or insightful. It's like, not that it's bad content. Like I still like Dave and would recommend him to people, but I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of not as, I need more. I need some deeper level of insight or something that I can't piece together on my own. But anyway, he did Sneako's show with this Professor Jiang guy, and I thought it was a pretty interesting conversation. Sneako has been in a weird place recently. I feel, am I saying this wrong, GeoGuessr? Why do people say nuclear instead of nuclear? Am I saying it wrong? I do say nuclear, don't I? Nuclear? I don't know. Nuclear. I don't know which one I'm supposed to say. I'll look into it, GeoGuessr, then I'll say it correctly. So Sneako, right, has been in a weird place because of his relationship with Nick Fuentes, and that has gone kind of public and viral, and they're beefing and everything. And what was that clip going around with him and Bradley Martin? I don't know if y'all saw that, but Bradley was kind of trying to set him straight, and Sneako was kind of being a bitch. He was saying like, "Oh, he sets his fans after me." It's like, okay, I don't follow Nick on Telegram, and I'm not in the rich guy group chat or whatever, the $100 a month group chat. But I have never ever heard Nick suggest to go after Sneako ever. I've never heard him say that. I feel like all those super chats roll in that are all like rape Sneako, and he's like, no, we love Sneako. He's our brown clown. Like he always is defending him and trying to stand up for him. So it was just like, Sneako, what are you doing? And then it occurred to me is that Sneako streams like Clav does for like 8 to 10 hours. That's all he does. He just sits in front of his thing and he talks. It's not a comment on the content, but it is kind of a comment of your lifestyle. It's like, that's all you do all day. That's sort of insane. And like I said, whatever, do whatever you want. I'm not judging the guy. I like Sneako, but it does kind of make sense that when you start taking all that heat in your chat on the regarding the beef with Fuentes, then you're kind of like, oh, well, yeah, for you, that must feel like it's your whole world, because it is your whole world, because you're on the internet constantly. You're in your stream and you're set up to get like daggers launched at you the entire time. So, okay, I get that. Actually, from that context, it makes sense. But just practically, man, it's like, stop being a bitch. Nick didn't do that. Anyway, that's just a little my own commentary on the side. But this is the podcast with Jiang and Dave Smith. And I thought it was interesting because I thought there were some really good some good points made. And I also thought that there were some things that were just completely way off. So we're going to get into it here and play a little bit from this, from Sneako over here. Oh, you said it right. Oh, okay. I said it right. Okay, cool. Thank you, GeoGasser. All right. Yeah, you had me worried, man. I'm all fucking in my head about it now. A sign of good health is recovering from libertarianism. Yeah, we talked about that when you were on my show, and I think that's fair. I do understand your perspective, and I do see what you guys are arguing. I think you are correct. I guess I'm still like a little bit, like on some of it. I don't know. It's hard to say because you're just like, yeah, but like, look where we are, man. This is where we are. So whatever about the idealistic libertarian utopia that you imagine could be, here's where we are today. We have to deal with that. But I think Dave actually does kind of make some sort of arguments to that effect in this video. But let's watch a little bit of that.
There's nothing? Right. So, yeah, no. I think one point of contention that we could discuss is I think there's a lot of belief that this war is personality driven or it's interest driven, meaning, it's either Trump being an imperialist or being crazy, or it's Israel and Netanyahu controlling things behind the scenes. And the argument I would make is that it's much more structural, that if you study history, macro history, we have seen this pattern before, whereas an empire declines, it starts these imperialist wars overseas that do not benefit itself in the long term. But it's driven by hubris. It's driven by structural forces as well. So I think that's one area of contention that we can discuss.
So that was Professor Jiang's assertion as to why we're at war with Iran right now. It's not necessarily about Trump. It's not necessarily about the Jews or world Jewry or anything like that. What it is about is that when empires get too big, they start to make stupid decisions with foreign wars, and it's cyclical. Okay, man. I honestly don't even know what to do with that kind of a take. Like, even if that's true, like you're seeing things from like a macro perspective. So then in that regard, it's like it's all already predicted, like it's all going to happen and like it's fatalist and it's just going to play out that way no matter what. And it's like, then that kind of suggests that there's no personal agency of anyone involved, that these things just happen like you're playing a video game. And like that might be true when you're like recalling history, when you're looking back on the past, 100, 200, 500,000 years, and you can start to see these patterns as these things happen. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe that might be worth talking about, studying. But right now, subjectively, while we're in a war that is not said and done, and the future is still unclear, it's like, okay, fucking so what? Like, oh, this is what empires do. It's like, yeah, dude, except that, you And Nick Fuentes like predicted that Trump was going to go to war with Iran. There's got to be something more to that from his perspective. That's purely just like, well, this is what empires do when they get big. It's like there's other forces at play. And this war in particular is rather specific. It's not even, if it was a war where the United States was just pillaging another country and taking their resources, for our glory or whatever, and everyone's like, yeah, we're so awesome. It's like, maybe. But that's clearly not what this is. There's no security over there that's going to get our interests any more enriched or wealthy. We're fucked. I mean, any way this plays out, the United States is weaker. So clearly there's a third party here that wants this war for their benefit. And if we're not talking about that, we're not having a conversation that's real. It's silly. And, look, this guy, I watched this whole stream, or I watched most of it. He's not stupid, and he doesn't make bad points all the time. But this right here is just, you're just like, what? But I liked Dave's reaction to this. I thought it was pretty sharp.
That's interesting. I mean, there certainly is a lot of truth to that, and there's even when you study like in the fall of the Roman Empire, when they were just like diluting their gold coins. There's like almost like a one-to-one metaphor for like money printing. You know what I mean? Even if, okay, we're doing ours on computers and stuff. And certainly the dynamics of like, crushing debt, expanded military, cultural decay, like there's a lot for sure. I guess I would just say, I don't think those things are necessarily in conflict. Like, I think there are all of those structural issues, and then there are also the personalities involved, and there are also the financial incentives. And so I'm certainly not opposed to I think that's true, basically, that we are in this kind of like collapsing empire mode that has happened before in human history. Also, look, I mean, the Israel lobbies essentially
I feel like this is like important to remind, not that I feel like this audience needs this kind of reminder. Y'all are pretty sharp, but the man ran on no new wars, right? It's not like we like elected Trump on this banner of military glory in a way to save our failing empire. Like, quite the opposite. The entire idea was to disentangle ourselves for useless wars, specifically in the Middle East, as said by Donald Trump. That was the point. That was like one of the most important features of what the next Trump administration was supposed to look like. Mass deportations and no stupid wars. And neither came to fruition correctly. Like, both have been betrayed. So it's like, I get it. I understand, but this isn't just like a feature of a failing empire. Like, yeah, maybe it is, like I said, in a macro history way. Okay, fine. But it's irrelevant to the conversation. I thought Dave's response was pretty sharp there. GeoGasser for $10. Thank you very much, brother. He says, welcome. Thank you. Glad to be here, man. These are some good dudes here, so I'm happy to be here and yak about this shit. It's pretty fun, man. Like the stream of Vrillium will post more gay nudes. Yeah, that's a threat. Okay, seriously, if even in the mildest way, it precludes us from having to view more of that. Please do so. Please do so. Ginger anagram. Yeah. Vrillium serves as a net good for putting general information about Jews to the normies. He just cannot be trusted or given a position of influence in the right. That's pretty concise, pretty insightful take on that. I agree with that. I have expressed this theory, I think, when Zeb did my show, and maybe to Joey, Right Wing Coalition as well. But I feel like that's kind of what Tucker Carlson is doing. Now, I do agree that Nick's insight on his Fed pass and his most likely CIA connection is accurate. But when he talks about it, I feel like sometimes if you just replace Jew, like Zionist with Jew or neocon with Jew, he's saying the same thing. He's just using one little, twist on the gauge to not go all in so that the normies can absorb this information and then take the ball and run with it a little bit. That's my theory. I don't know. After watching that old stream about Tucker from Nick, though, I kind of feel like, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But I thought Dave's response here was pretty sharp. I think it's pretty good. He goes on.
Sole purpose for the last 25 years has been to get this war. I mean, a few others along the way, but they've been pushing for this one forever. And this, of all the wars, it's almost like the most open and shut slam dunk. Like, I mean, if you were prosecuting a trial for murder, we'd have more than enough to put every Likud member, in jail for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's another point too, right? They have all those clips going back to like I know it was the 90s and maybe even the 80s of Benjamin Netanyahu. Like that became the meme, that became the joke, right? Was that Israel, Iran is two weeks away from a nuclear bomb. They have like the old ancient tablet, and it translated, and it says Iran's 2 weeks away from a nuclear bomb, and that's the thing. So it's like there obviously this isn't just like pursuing military glory. Obviously, we're serving the interests of the Israel lobby and Israel and Netanyahu and like their greater Israel project. Obviously. And all due respect, Professor, isn't that a more of an acute angle to take on this conflict? Isn't that really where we should be putting our energy? Why? The real why, the tangible on the earth why we're doing the war? Isn't that worth more of our time? I thought Dave did a pretty good job here, and ironically enough, I know that Dave's heritage turned some people off of him, but he's done more to like J-pill me than even Nick. Ironically enough, he was one of the first people that I was watching his streams and just being like, whoa, what's the deal with Israel? It goes back to when? Like what, there was Zionists in the 1800s? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't know any of this. So I'm like going down this rabbit hole, and it was Dave and Robbie Bernstein that like played the most significant role in my red pilling, my J pilling. So, listen, wherever you get the information, right? He's not a professor. He's a high school teacher. I heard Nick talking about that. I haven't verified this. I didn't go to find out whether that was correct. I just kind of assumed it was correct. But I did hear that, and I haven't verified that as a fact. But that does sound right, because he happened to get the Iran thing right. And so far, I haven't really heard him say much else that was particularly insightful. Valhalla on the Professor Jiang grift now. Yeah, I don't. It's also like people have moments, right? People get hot. They're everywhere. People want to pull them in, and then they talk to them to be part of the conversation, to get clicks. Like, I guess that's exactly what a grift is. I'm a fucking idiot.
And so, that does tend to be my focus, and maybe that is a little bit more narrow than looking at the broader kind of cyclical, history rhyming patterns.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, Dave, don't you hate America? I saw Ben Shapiro just responded to the conversation I had with Professor Jiang and Alexander Dugin yesterday, and he said he's exposing Sneako. There's the title, and I haven't got the chance to watch the video yet, but the narrative is that I hate America, which I saw he said about you. You publicly said that you'll debate him. I'll debate Ben Shapiro as well. Do you not hate America by opposing the Israeli lobby, Dave?
Oh, it's all so ridiculous, man. It's like all of my opposition to all of these foreign conflicts is out of a love for America, and particularly out of a love for America, the America that I grew up in the 1980s and 90s, which is a much different country. And I believe.
And fucking A. And I think this is a point that Nick Fuentes has pointed out before, but it's something that I've been acutely aware of, because like I said, I'm a millennial. I'm a little bit older. Like, what the American public has been voting for in every election, with the exception of probably Biden, if that even went down that way, is that we didn't want to do these fucking wars, right? Like, that was the entire point. That was the conceit of the Obama administration, was that these neocon Republicans had just lost their minds. Their bloodlust. And no one was talking about Israel except for maybe Mearsheimer, but that was like, you had to read that book. That was not part of the mainstream conversation. But it was like they had lost their minds. Like they had run this country into the ground. These wars had gone on and on. They're just killing people. They're costing a fortune. Are we winning? Are we losing? How could you even tell? This was supposed to be a quick operation. I mean, that was literally the strength of what Obama got elected on. Now, obviously, it didn't play out like that. And obviously, his foreign policy, you could even argue, is like worse than George W. Bush's. But that was like what it was about. And then Trump won was a rejection of the entire establishment of the uniparty. That was the point. It was like we looked these guys in the face. And we gave this guy a chance who said, that we're going to close Guantanamo. We're going to stop doing these wars. We're going to bring our boys home. We're going to end all this. That was literally the point. These wars, the American public doesn't want them. They're bad for us. There's been something that every election, I mean, that was, like I said earlier, that was the whole conceit of the Trump 1 and 2 was to get us out of this shit. It's ridiculous. They are, so, obviously Ben Shapiro, we don't need to dissect whether that guy's a patriot or not, but I think like that's important to understand about the American people is like we've been anti-war, anti these bullshit wars for 20 years. I mean, this has been something that the American public has pretty much been over. And that's why these politicians, that's why there's so much push behind them. That's why people feel that it's so important to get these guys into office is to end these fucking wars.
Much better country than the one we live in today. And not that this is the entire reason for that, but a huge part of it, of what degraded this country, was the global war on terrorism. It totally bankrupted us, not just financially, but I believe like spiritually. I think there's a real spiritual aspect to these things. And, even like, let's say from the perspective of, say, like a real traditional conservative, let's like say you're an American conservative. When did you lose the culture? This is in the 1960s when we were fighting the war in Vietnam for specific reasons. Like you start doing these, your government starts doing these type of evil things. It affects like even the ability of conservatives to have a voice in the room, to say like, hey, no, we want to keep Americanism and this whole tradition. Like when that whole
no, I mean, once again, he's 100% right. I mean, during the 2000s, like the aughts and then the tens, it was like unthinkable socially to be like a Republican. It was just like, that's crazy. Because these are the guys who are sending all these young men to die for who knows fucking what. It was just off the table. I think that's, part of the reason why they melted down so bad when Trump got elected, because they had been handed the whole deck. They had been handed control of the ship. They ran shit. Culturally, it became like very, very, posh, very cool to be not a conservative. It was just kind of because these people were insane, right? These people had like, what are they doing to this country? And it's because of these wars. Dave's exactly right. Obviously, I wasn't alive in the 60s, so I can't really speak to that. But he's right. I mean, that's where that was such a thrust of that counterculture movement, was being anti-war. That was the point. And the same thing is like in the aughts and the 2010s. That was the exact same thing. It was like this anti-war. So they lose control. And what's happening right now? Like, legendary cultural shift, right? With Trump, you have everybody's on board, all the podcasters, as they point out, the media looks like this dinosaur, this relic of a different era that's over completely, oh God, the news, you watch the fucking news, idiot. Everybody just came together to support this guy, to put an end to things like woke, to put an end to things like the Democratic Party tyranny. This matriarchal longhouse that our country had turned into. We were like, fuck that. Everyone came together, the exception of the actual smart people in the room, like Nick Fuentes. But that was like the thrust of so much of it. And why is it falling apart? Obviously the Epstein files, but this fucking war. And that's what keeps happening. This to want to talk about a cycle, is that these guys get into power, they fight wars for interests that aren't ours, and then all that social capital you had, all that the authority you had, it's all gone, and it fucking should be, because what are we doing? This is not America first. This whole thing is not America first. Chad Norman, hello. China invaded Vietnam after America left, but no one even knows about that. And this ignorance leads to the false outward image of China not being imperialistic. Interesting insight. Yeah, I didn't know about that either. China and Africa. Yeah. Did you ever see that? I'm sure you guys have seen that documentary, The Empire of Dust, or at least the meme, where it's all so tiresome. That's some good watching. That's pretty goddamn funny. This guy just trolling this black dude, this African guy the whole time. Just making fun of them, making fun of their society. He's just crushing this guy, because the Chinese don't have the European sort of social graces. They just tells him, just laughs at his whole society right to his face. It's pretty awesome. GeoGasser, I was for Lindsay and now I'm for Trump. The guy just destroyed all of our bases. Anyone that wants the U.S. out of the Middle East should support Trump. Wait, what? I was for Lindsey. Do you mean like Lindsey Graham? And now I'm for Trump. The guy just destroyed all of our bases. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, okay, yeah, sorry. Like, he did such a bad job. He blew it so hard that if you want out of the Middle East, support this guy. Put on your MAGA hat. Yeah, that's fair.
Tradition is what? Like slaughtering babies? It just like it leads to this moral decay in a country. Obviously, it bankrupts the country financially, and no, it's just ridiculous. Like if I hated America, I would support all of these wars. If I really hated America and really wanted to destroy it, I would be the biggest cheerleader of Benjamin Netanyahu. So again, these are like infantile, childish arguments, and it's the same ones that the Warhawks always throw out. Oh, if you don't support this, you hate America.
Would you like the terrorists? That's what we had back in the 2000s. Freedom fries. That's exactly right. That was precisely what the argument was back then. It's what they do now. And fuck, like, that would ever land coming from Ben fucking Shapiro. Shut up, Ben Shapiro. Fuck that guy. All right, let's move on to another topic that isn't about the war. This is about globalism, the globalists, the Bilderbergs. This is about China and the U.S. Let's go here to 2712. Where are we? Here we go. Boom.
And strikes here. Essentially, the deal between just say like America and China, spanning decades now, has been.
This is Dave Smith going off on his libertarian shit. And look, I understand. I know the dissident right is not libertarian, but I still think he's correct about this particular issue. Oh, Astrobot. But MAGA's with Trump, 100%. CNN said so. Oh, dude. Like, I think the same week that poll came out, North Korea reelected Kim Jong-un, and it was like 98%. I'm like, even the North Koreans have enough wisdom and insight to not make it 100%. And he keeps touting it. You see that? He's still touting that statistic. It's like, sir, you have to know, man. There's no 100%. There's no dissent whatsoever. Okay, bro. Alrighty.
You make all of our stuff, and we will buy it from you. That's the working relationship. You do the production, and we'll do the consumption. And oh, by the way, we're going to need you to lend us some money to do the consumption because we're dead broke and we can't afford it. And the truth is just that it is a totally just unfair deal for the world on behalf of America. But I would add the caveat to that being that the boomers were the last generation that really benefited from that whole system.
Yes.
None of the rest of the generations are benefiting from this. And so it's not just that like, oh, we have this unfair system, but it does help America. Actually, it's destroying America. It's helping the banking sector. It's helping the weapons manufacturers, and it helped the baby boomers. So I agree with you. They're not going to change their minds, but the thing they are going to do is die. And that's coming up in the next few decades. I mean, that's already starting. Baby boomers are starting to go down. And so I'm just saying that is, unless we got some real breakthroughs in medicine coming up here. So anyway, I would say that what at least has happened is that back to your analogy of like, would you take this deal? The baby boomers would not. But the 50 and under crowd is radically aware of all of this stuff in a way that the American people have never been before. And so perhaps I'm hopeful that if we can make it till then, we will be looking at a new political reality.
That's always my white pill. Because I was completely oblivious to the turn that Trump was going to deliver. I didn't listen to Nick Fuentes at the time, and I hadn't really heard anyone make that argument. And so I was just like, yeah, no, I mean, look, he's been through so much, he's gonna do it, right? I was like completely blindsided. I had no idea. A fell for it again award deserved right here, but. The thing that white pills me, or, white pills me, is the fact that the conversations are so good. I mean, that's like the point of this whole show, right? Is like where the conversations are happening. But the conversations are so sharp and insightful, and people are aware of these things in a way that just historically have never really been. Like when I say back in the 2000s, when people were talking about the Iraq war, Israel never even came up, even though there's footage of Netanyahu and I think it was Ariel Sharon at the time, I believe. No, Ehud Barak. Who was the prime minister? Maybe it was Ehud Barak. Anyway, going to Congress and advocating for this war, right? But it was never part of the conversation that this was for Israel. That never came up. That was never, it was just like war for oil or liberation of the Iraqis, you know, for whatever reasons, weapons of mass destruction. No one ever said Israel. No one pointed out that they're, you know, they have this clean break memo that's designed to do the greater Israel project so they don't have to give the Palestinians a state. That never came up. That was never part of the conversation. Yet today, who are you fooling with this? You know, when people, I watched this guy, Cecil. He's someone I knew back when I did like a lot of nerd YouTubing, and I didn't know him. I just like, you know, followed him, and he came up in my algorithm, and I was like, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. His entire take, like everything he said was wrong, you know, but that's like, these people, like when they try to run the company line, they just get crushed. The algorithm eats them alive. The people are so much more dialed in and knowledgeable about what the situation really is and what the truth of the future really is and the political realities really are. To me, that's the white pill. That's the most important thing, because it's like, it's easy to doom. It's easy to get down and look at things and be like, oh, we're fucked. I mean, there's never, no one's coming to save us. I'm like, that's true, but the quality of conversation, the level of insight, and the level of people having the conversations that truly know what's actually going on is unparalleled in history. So I cling on to that like a safety blanket. I think that might have been the only China. He might respond to this. Let's see if I think Jiang may say something, but if it's boring, I'll move on.
Okay, so that was a great dialogue. So thanks so much, Dave. So I want to make 2 points, okay, to further our discussion. So let's talk about the China-U.S. relationship. So you say that the U.S., maybe the baby boomers benefited, but the United States overall lost in this relationship with China. And I want to explain the Chinese perspective, because it is true that America did offshore its manufacturing capacity to China. That is true. And that built the Chinese middle class. But what people don't discuss is that China offshored its elite selection and indoctrination to America. Okay, and this is very important. This is something that Americans don't really discuss, meaning that China sent all its top students, all the wealthiest, brightest students to America to be indoctrinated in the Ivy League and universities. And then they came back to control China. And so what this means is that over these past few decades, China's civilization capacity, its intellectual capacity, has been severely downgraded. So even though China has been...
Dude, I don't give a shit about the prosperity of China. I'm an American. I care about America. But I do like that this guy does. And he sees that. And he's like, all of our youth went to the United States and got educated. And they came back. And now they're all gay. What the hell happened? But he's like talking about the preservation of the Chinese future has been weakened by their Americanized education. And I was just like, yeah. It sucks. It's happening here too. Based, Professor. Yes, indeed.
Become much more prosperous. You can make the argument that China has been intellectually colonized by America. So the Chinese elite right now have this very neoliberal, very pro-American slant, which I think is going to hinder China's development as civilization for the next few hundred years. Okay, so
it's kind of interesting too, right? Because like from our perspective, we're like, all right, sick, yeah, cool, be pro-America. But from his perspective, he's just like, my country, we're losing our country, it's collapsing, it's falling apart. And I was just like, yeah, look, obviously I'm not pro-China, but from his perspective, yeah, based, he wants to preserve his society and not let the neoliberals destroy it. It's like, yeah, I get it. It sucks. It's not awesome to witness. No, I feel you. You know, I don't give a shit about China, but yeah, they sent spies and we turned them gay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They can't stop talking about patriarchy. What happened? We're supposed to honor your parents in China. All right, let's do one more clip here.
America become much more authoritarian. Okay, so the example, of course, is COVID, and you and I both agree that the lockdowns were inappropriate. It's shattered the mental health of young people who need to socialize. It destroyed staring at a screen for 8 hours a day. It destroyed the economy, right? If you were poor, you became even more poor. But it benefited.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He's talking about, sorry, I remember this part of the conversation. He's basically talking about how selfish the boomers are in their politics and their execution. And he's using COVID as an example.
Baby boomers, because first of all, they had assets in the stock market, and the stock market boomed at that time. Second of all, they were actually afraid of catching this disease. So that's why they were in favor of lockdown. And then you had, you had October 7th happen, and then you had these university protests happen rightfully because these young people were disgusted by what was happening in Gaza. And then you have this massive crackdown in the universities. And so what this is telling us is that the baby boomers are politically active, and they're able to warp the American political system in a way that matches their worldview, that matches their political priorities. And so they're.
So this is where, once again, the professor is completely wrong. The reason they crack down on Palestine protests in colleges has very little to do with the boomer. Now, I can empathize 100% with the COVID thing. That's true. And I'm certainly not here to defend the boomers, but it's important to understand people and their political organizations from the correct perspective, not from a one that sounds like good from your side. That has very little to do with the boomers. Yeah, maybe, the Fox News dads watching, watching the campus protests and be like, they should shut these kids up. Bah, bah, bah. Yeah, but those same guys wanted mass deportations and they're not getting it. It has nothing to do with what the boomers want on this issue of college protests. Okay, that's the thing I keep noticing about this guy. He has there's this giant blind spot to this 6-pointed star right in the middle of this whole puzzle he's trying to put together. It's like, Jiang, just put that right there and understand how significant that is to this conversation. That's what that was about. This is a liberal, let's call it campus. It's like but that's not the type of liberalism we want. That's got nothing to do with the boomers. Has nothing to do with their perspective. That has to do with the tribe, man. And he does this. He keeps mistaking these things. I don't know if it's intentional or if he's just not that insightful of a commentator, but I hear him talk a lot about this. Like there was this clip going around from that guy, Jack something. Fuentes did his show. I can't remember his name. He's like a young kid with like blonde curly hair. Jack Neely, is that right? Anyway, and he was saying, the reason that Trump went to war with Iran was because he wants to have a third term and truly save America. And you're like, shut the fuck. What are you talking about? Where are you getting any of this from? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If it's not the boomers, who is it? The Israel lobby, dog. Israel's influence in our government, That's what this is. That's, that's the whole reason they got rid of that woman at Harvard, that black woman who ran Harvard. That's why they got rid of her. It wasn't because she lied on her thesis, on her doctoral thesis, and was a DEI hire. It was like, no, because she was letting too much pro-Palestine activism on the campus. And who they replace her with? A Jewish dude. It's like, yes, technically the boomers are pro-Israel. It overlaps. I get that. But it's not the boomers' interests that are being served here. Those happen to overlap more as a coincidence, not as a matter of, direct will. Israel lobbies are boomers. Well, what do you do about what about what's his name? Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer. They're not boomers. Why is their will so observed? Why do they get what they want in this administration? They're not boomers. Is it the fact that Mark Levin is a boomer, or is it the fact that Mark Levin's a pro-Israel Jew? Which one do you think has more weight? I'm pretty sure it's the latter.
argument I would make is, yes, they will die off, but before they die off, they will make sure that America becomes a much more authoritarian nation before they die off, so that they can live peacefully in their gated communities, and they can continue to be parasites on the American Republic before they die off, right? And that's a prediction I would make, and that's very worrying if that is the case. But given the past behavior,
and let me just make it clear: this is not a pro-boomer argument, but this is understanding the political realities more acutely, and not broadly. It's like the way the left, sees everything through the lens of like race or even class, like in a Marxist way, and it's like that's not nuanced enough. That's not correct enough. Like that isn't accurate all the time. That's it's like you can use some of these things. They have their uses, they have their applications, but it's not always correct. And the same thing is like, it's the boomers. It's like, is it, is that the most impactful political party, the boomers? But, most with power are WW2 narrative boomers. Yeah, I agree that, but like, they're taking the special interest money from the Jewish lobby, and I feel like that's a far more impactful fact than the fact of their age and their ideology. It's like it's there, it's certainly there, but I don't think that's what carries the weight, personally.
I mean, they are extremely selfish people who believe that the world should revolve around them.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I can't really disagree with anything you said there. And I thought that was all very interesting. Now, particularly about the point with the Chinese students coming to our elite university.
I'm just going to move on. There's one last clip I want to play from this, and then we're going to move on to another podcast. I feel like, you've gotten the gist here. This was an interesting podcast. I mean, it wasn't the best thing I've ever seen, but it was like, okay, like Sneako was just kind of being the host. He was just sort of like letting the ball go back and forth between Dave and Jiang. And, it's like, if you like those guys, if you're interested in that type of conversation, it's like, okay. But I feel like these highlights kind of cover it.
Even if you're just at the health department, resign in disgust. I don't care. You said you were the guy who was against the neocons and all of their wars and stuff. It specifically spoke out against what a nightmare war in Iran would be. Maybe there'll be support. I'm like, die. I hope just like that, because I'm sorry, I'm rambling too much, but that I do think one of the real dangers we have right now, and this is part of the reason why, I like talking to guys like you. I like talking to guys like Nick Fuentes. I like talking to like a lot of these guys because, and I know to some degree, there are some in the audience who will like almost think that this is kind of like hopeless naivete or I'm a Jew and I'm being subversive or something like that. But it's like,
kind of hard to not like him when he makes a joke like that, right? So he's just like, yeah, I get it. I know what you think. This is pretty funny.
The thing is this, right? The establishment in America that has just like destroyed this country, let alone all the other countries that it's literally destroyed. It, as I said before, it wears this liberal skin. It wears this libertarian language. Everything is Operation Freedom and voluntary compliance and all these, which is not our system. It's the opposite of our system. It's the system that we once had that built.
I played a video on my show, the MFR podcast, which I do over on my channel every Tuesday at 6 Central. Check it out. But I played a video from this YouTuber, Basic Logic, and he breaks down these arguments in really concise, like 8 to 10 minute videos, sometimes even shorter. They're good. But he did one where basically it was like why fascism is the most misunderstood system. And then he goes on to list all the elements of like what like fascism is. And then he kind of points to like the EU and the sort of United States, like managerial bloated bureaucracy. And he kind of points out that it's sort of like it's fascism without the patriarchy. So it's just matriarchal gay fascism. And I was like, shit, I think he's right. It was pretty good. It was pretty insightful. Anyway, full side.
Us all of the wealth to allow us to have this corrupt, crazy system. But like when people, especially young people, are understandably reacting against this system, which calls itself liberalism, the natural tendency is to split into illiberalism and to go, yeah, we reject liberalism. And that's why you see I believe that's why you see so many young kids on the left openly supporting communism, socialism, and why you see so many people on the right openly supporting fascism, because it just becomes the knee-jerk reaction that like, yo, I
don't know about fascism. I think maybe far rightism. I think fascism, the guys who are like fascists are LARPing. You know, they're being like, you know, the way I was in high school where I was like a punk, you know what I mean? Where I wore like, you know, like Marilyn Manson shirts and chains and shit like that to be rebellious. I think that if you're like actually advocating for fascism, you're just LARPing. But I think his point is about the far right, and he's correct. I mean, that is happening. It's like especially the younger generation are splitting off right into these two different like kind of polarized camps of extremity because of the right. This what are these governments? They're liberal, right? And it's like, who do they serve? It's like not the people paying all the damn taxes, not the people that it's allegedly supposed to support. And so he says that people are misunderstanding or not prescribing the problem correctly. And while I think he's onto something there, I also feel like the part of the problem, and this is something that I feel that Atlas has pointed out, right-wing coalitions pointed out, Nick Fuentes has pointed out, is that this system, by its very nature, allows this reality that we live in right now. That it is like part of it. That it's inevitable. That it's an imperfect system, a broken system that will eventually lead to this sort of bloated federal bureaucracy. Now, I know the libertarians would push back on that, and they'd probably have some pretty good arguments about it. But I do think it's important to point out to Dave's argument here that it's like you're not understanding the entire pushback. You're not understanding the entire counter argument here. It's like you're not wrong, but you're also not 100% right, or not really listening to the more intelligent critics, because there are some pretty strong arguments against it that land and are hard to refute.
Screw this. Like we're against what you say, we're what you say the worst thing in the world is. But the truth is that there's just disaster behind both of those paths. They've both been tried. They've both led to absolute disaster. I mean, like real deal disasters. And it might be like kind of like niche and kind of like badass to be like, no, I'm the revisionist who says, Stalin was really cool, or I'm the revisionist who says Hitler was really cool. And by the way, that's not a shot at Fuentes. I don't even mean to say cool, because I get the point he's making when he says it. I just mean like the people who are actually going like, no, these guys were actually great, misunderstood leaders, and they did really good by their people. Like,
didn't counter signal Nick, Whenever anyone goes after him for counter signaling, it's like, well, maybe we should, also observe that he didn't counter signal. That's good. Here's the thing too. It's like I've discussed this with Atlas and some other dudes about the libertarian thing, right? And it's sort of the far right and the dissident right seem that it's exhausted its usefulness. It's sort of wishful thinking, and to a degree I agree. However, what I do like about guys like Dave Smith, probably like Dave DeCamp, Scott Horton, these libertarian guys, what I do like about them is I really feel like I'm hearing what their perspective is. They're not representing an argument. There's no hidden agenda. There's nothing underneath it that's underhanded or insincere. They really mean it. They really mean what they're saying. And it's fair to point out that they're wrong, or you disagree with their conclusions, or you have a better prescription. That's fair. But I recognize these guys, and I feel that I'm correct about this, is that they are speaking authentically. What they're saying to you, what they are conveying to you, they really mean it. And it's just them. There's no other deeper layers to this. There's nothing underneath the surface that you need to investigate. They're being honest and they're being transparent, and this is what they really think. And for me, stuff like that I think is super valuable, right? It's like I could even take that from like a left-winger if they are being authentic and they're not debating in good faith or discussing things in bad faith. I feel like it's more enlightening to hear from people like that, because you're getting what they really believe without it being filtered or manipulated or a lie. It's like all right, that's what I disagree, and if there's room for that disagreement, I feel like that can be really constructive. But that's why I do like these guys. I feel like their arguments, they don't really hold up to scrutiny or recent reality, so it's harder to endorse them or embrace them. But I like hearing from them because I feel like I'm getting what they really believe. Have they, though? I think so. Any guy here in the chat has a better view any guy here in the chat has a better view than Professor Jiang. I think he had some good viral take, but he clearly doesn't have the knowledge to be on a panel with Dave. Yeah, no, I didn't get the impression that he was particularly insightful watching this. Like, he wasn't entirely wrong, but like you said, it wasn't novel. It wasn't particularly insightful in a way that was like helpful. Also, it is weird. I feel like when people from other countries kind of like who don't live here weigh in on like the state of politics. Like I'm a fan of like Carl Benjamin, right? And I think he's a pretty sharp guy. He's pretty acute. He's just starting now to basically be like, oh, okay, it's over with Trump. It was all bullshit. But it took him a while. But that's because he doesn't live here, right? It's not his culture. He doesn't really understand its workings and its ins and outs and the nature of this country. It's not his. So it's like he has a different level of insight than you could have. Just like I could only have a marginal insight on Ireland, England, stuff like that. I can only have like an outsider's perspective, and I can give you like a take on it, but it might not be the most valuable one because I don't live in that culture. And so it's kind of like, it's weird when you hear this guy, you're just like, I mean, what the fuck? You don't even live here. What the fuck do you know? You just studying the internet. Just like, yeah, I guess, I don't know. Stacking coins. Professor Jiang was flagged 5 minutes into his first video as a Oh, is that right? Is that right? He's an agent? Wouldn't shock me. He was saying some pretty controversial things about China, like in the context of the CCCP. And I was just kind of like, okay, CCP, two C's. Boomers thought Walter Cronkite was their friend too. Are you accusing me of being a boomer, laughing dog? Oh, what? Who's a boomer? You got the Chiefs from Slapshot in your profile picture. Now, by the way, I love that movie. I think it's fantastic, but that movie came out in the 70s. Is this a self-report? He has a rudimentary, this is Junior Williams 4029. He has a rudimentary surface level understanding of a variety of subjects, but lacks a deep understanding on any one subject. Yeah, that's insightful. He makes vague references, but doesn't get into the minutia of GP. I think you're right. He doesn't really seem to be particularly insightful. Oh, did Atlas do a video on this guy? I didn't see that one. I'll have to check it out. I do watch a lot of Atlas, but I didn't see that one. All right. A little bit more of this, and then we're going to move on. We've got some more to talk about.
No, they didn't. No, they did not. The people who lived under them suffered fates that literally anyone in America is incapable of even wrapping their head around. Yep. And that's what that stuff brings. But we have this other option, a third way, if you will, ironically, where we could just remember what was really great about America. Like, we don't have to turn to any of those things. We can just do the American model, which at its best is freedom, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. Like there are a lot of dynamics that prevent us from being there, but there's nothing against the laws of physics that say we can't just at some point go, hey, the Constitution is still the law of the land. Screw all of this. We're enforcing it now. And if we can get to a point where we wake up super majorities of the American people to believe in that, then I think we got a fighting shot at maybe things being much better off than they are now. So that's the strategy for me. Just keep saying this stuff and hoping to resonate with as many people as you can.
Pretty idealistic take on getting us back to a constitutional republic that, we were founded on and everything. I don't know how I feel necessarily about where the dissident right and the far right is on like the future of our government. Like, I think they're very insightful and they have a lot of good ideas, but it was unique in history for us to get the rights that were enshrined in the Constitution into a founding document for the government. And as much as that has been shredded and as much as that has been, torn to pieces, and I understand. Don't freak out in the chat. But to me, it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to rush into that if we don't know exactly what we're doing. If we don't have like a really crystal clear idea of exactly what tearing this down and replacing it looks like, you're getting into some pretty dangerous territory. And a lot of people throughout history had the same idea, and then they got a lot of the same shit. So I would like Dave to be correct in his idealism. I think it is idealistic, though. Boomer. Listen, I'm just saying, it's pretty rare. I mean, you see how important freedom of speech is right now if you're in fucking the EU, or England, or Ireland, man, forget it. Those people are getting crushed. All right, let's move on to someone a little closer to this sphere. Right Wing Coalition, Joey, he just put out his book, the Gen Z, what's it called? Generation Z, from liberal to far right. It's like, I got my copy. I haven't read it yet. But it's, he's put out his videos. If you guys are familiar with Atlas and these guys, you probably know Joey over there. And he's doing great, but he's been starting to do some collabs. So he had on a few weeks ago, he had a guy on from Arctos, the publisher, which it was a good interview, but the whole time I just couldn't stop thinking that the guy sounded like Dr. Strangelove from the movie. It was pretty funny. If you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But he had this guy on, Dave Greene. Now, I didn't know this Dave Greene guy. I guess he's one of these dudes who's been on YouTube in the politics space for a long time. News to me. I did not know this guy, but I ended up listening to the conversation. And I thought it was fascinating. I thought this guy was really intellectual, really acute, concise, just really had some great arguments. So I wanted to highlight some of the moments from this podcast that I thought was really good. So this is over on the Right Wing Coalition channel, if you are curious about watching the entire discussion. And it's with the guy, Dave Greene, is known as the Distributist. Now, like I said, he's been on YouTube for a long time, but I was not familiar. But there's, obviously there's a million political conversations, excuse me, going on all over the place and on YouTube quite a bit. So that doesn't count for that much. This is Stacking Coins. Dave, if we could just get everyone to do a thing, Smith. Yeah, I know. Yeah, and if we could also agree that this, massive bureaucratic establishment will just, I guess they'll just go quietly when we strip them of all their power, influence, and wealth. I'm sure they'll just go with it. I agree with the foreigner take to a degree. If you ask Sergei Lavrov about the American culture, goals, strengths, and weaknesses, he would show a profound understanding of us. Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's irrelevant. I just feel like sometimes it's like you're missing a pretty big chunk. It's like, yeah, some people are very insightful about it and are correct. I'm not saying it's worthless, and I'm not someone who's like, hey, shut up about my country. I'm just saying, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Stacking Coins, our freedoms were meant for a moral and white people, as we were the only ones that could handle it. It does seem like I saw this image in Ireland of this wall. Was it Ireland? Might have been England. Either way, it doesn't matter. It was in this rural, countryside, and it was this wall, this stone wall that had been standing for like 300 years. And this migrant guy, excuse me, just starts taking it apart, just ripping out all the rocks. And it's like it had been there for 300 years, and it had occurred to anyone who lived there to do that. And this guy just shows up and just starts taking it apart. And it's like, look, there are things, culture is real, man. Cultural cohesion is real. People having like a pre-understood set of values is real. Something that you're all taught in the home. It's like, it's hard to just replace that, to just force people into those cogs. I mean, it can happen over generations, but I think we're seeing some pretty severe issues with that way of thinking, with just forcing those things together as if it'll just, they'll just come here, be Americans. Doesn't matter how long you were there for. Doesn't matter the culture you come from. Doesn't matter your values. You're just an American now. It's like, I don't fucking think so, actually. And quite frankly, I disagree. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, it's just realized it's an SLC Punk poster, Heroin Bob approves. Fuck yeah, dude. Love that movie. One of my favorites, man. Absolutely. So him. Chad Nordman knows him. David Greene is great. Always brings an interesting perspective. Yeah, like I said, this is my first time engaging with him, but I thought he was fantastic. All right, let's get into it.
In the mainstream, that were kind of being pushed out there for the first time, and it was like this big explosion of energy and hype. And you can't obviously do that again. Basically, what young people are facing today is sort of a choice about whether they orient themselves to the left or to the right. I know that's predominantly the subject of your book, even though I haven't finished it. I think that, for the right wing especially, the algorithm kind of hurt us a lot. There was kind of like a soft ban that went out around 2020 that really throttled everything, and that only got worse and worse over time. And when it comes to uncensored media platforms like Twitter, maintaining quality control is incredibly difficult. And there's an understanding too on the left wing side. Initially, when people kind of came about in 2014, the left felt like they actually had to engage with the criticisms of the right. They just had to actually this is something that I think people from the Night Owls podcast said. They said that initially in 2011, the left felt like that it had the internet promised to it. The left had been told for years and years and years and years that the reason why their ideas weren't just taking over the entire world was that they hadn't been circulated enough. And if you had the power of...
If you've ever engaged in conversation, debate, or any kind of discussion with like one of those completely calcified brain leftists, you'll know exactly how true that is. They seem incapable of understanding that, yes, you understand the argument. Yes, you've heard that argument. You disagree. It's like blasphemy to them. They genuinely cannot handle that. It's like, yeah, no, I heard you. I still think it's wrong. It's like, no, like once people hear the gospel, they'll know the truth. We'll just say it from the mountaintops. The more people hear it, the more they'll just know it's true. And it's like, I ran into that so many times. It's like, I know, man. I know what you're saying. I know what you're gonna say. I fucking disagree. Is that clear? Do you get it? I don't know. I don't know if guys curse as much on this channel. Maybe I'll try to curtail it. I got a potty mouth.
The network news stations, like that movie network, then you could get the word out to the people and they would all just become communists or socialists or whatever. And they'd all become these liberated individuals. And so right up until 2013, the leftists felt like, well, of course, we're just going to win all conflicts. We always win. Yeah. We always won in university. And that's, a lot of these leftists, the way they talk, you can tell they've been trained to talk about politics. And the university classroom where there's a teacher there that's kind of, curating the curriculum to not cover certain things. That's why they think calling you racist ends the argument, because it would in a college classroom. And the thing is, that's not how it turned out. They just got BTFO'd from 2014 right on down to 2020 when the censorship kicked in. And moreover, leftist audiences realized that their best tactic was just kind of curate their own individual spaces. They got more money operating, and the leftist funding network, the patronage network. Now, this is not something you can just make by pointing it.
I forgot. I must have got the time code wrong here. I forgot why I picked that clip, because that wasn't particularly interesting. I mean, not to say it wasn't interesting. It wasn't a point. I don't remember why. I must have wrote down that time code wrong, but you could see just by this conversation, right? The dude's level of insight, I think, is really worth paying attention to. You guys seem to know him more than I do. But this whole conversation was like this. This whole conversation was this, like a very stoic intellectual analysis of the political conversation for the past 20 years. It was very like emotionally detached and just a cold analysis and understanding everyone's perspectives and why they think this and why they think that. It was pretty strong. Yes, he was. That's Joey Oliver, Right Wing Coalition. Fantastic YouTuber. All right, let me just move on to another clip that I had timestamped. I must have just got that one wrong. I apologize for that, folks. Won't ever happen again. I will be perfect from here on out. Let's see here. All right.
Obviously, and under that system, it's basically the longhouse, flatline, at least romantically egalitarian. And this actually kind of gets to something that I know we disagree on, which is the significance of someone like Clavicular. And I'm not saying that he is what I'm talking about, but what I am saying is that I think that he actually is certainly a net positive against this longhouse culture. And I'm curious. I've heard
you don't see him as an extension of the longhouse culture.
Well,
because
I do not now, but I see your argument. But for anyone that doesn't know, can you give your general criticisms and overall opinion of
I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the Mouse Utopia.
Of course, the beautiful ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Mouse Utopia for the listeners is this experiment done with mice or rats. I think it could be replicated, but it could have been a one-off thing where the mice were given a resource abundance across like 10 generations. And what resulted is a kind of death by domestication. And one of the phenomenons that was observed were that male mice usually optimize themselves for fighting and for competitions with other men. But as the resource abundance became sort of ridiculous, they started optimizing themselves for appearance like females did. And the clavicular phenomenon.
What's the general feeling on clavicular in this chat on this channel? I'm curious because I have some conflicted feelings about Clav. I don't dislike him. You know, at times I'm like, wow, he's a fucking idiot. But other times I'm just like, I don't know. There's something kind of like impressive about him, his ascension of just being a dude, right? He's kind of it is sort of like the female Instagram model, right? It's like it's not like he's like an athlete or like a great content creator or like editor or comedian. He is just kind of famous for being himself, all right? It's like that's kind of why he's ascended, but it's working for him. And he you know, he mogs and he does all these streams and all that, and it's like it's an interesting like, what, you know, this is a unique avatar, a unique person who's existed in our culture. I can't think of anyone who's like that. I mean, you know, even a guy like Tate, right? It's like the idea is that, you know, he was already successful. He was a martial artist. He had, you know, insight and knowledge and stuff like that. Like Clav that's not really part of the package. You know, and look, he's one of these guys, I was talking about Sneako earlier, who streams all day. I don't think that that's good for your brain. I don't, especially the IRL streaming. I just feel like you're inviting trouble, and it's going to wire your brain in a weird way that you can never really, you know, be off. You have to be constantly on. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on Clav? I'm kind of curious what the chat thinks about Clav, because I find him to be like, like I said, he doesn't bother me. I don't dislike him, but I also wonder the wisdom of putting all of your energy into your appearance as from a male perspective, like what that, because if you start building that's your value, right? If you're putting all of that, your looks maxing, that's your thing. It's like, well, you are gonna get old and that will fade. So what happens then? Are you going to be like those sad women who used to be hot and never got over it? Is that going to be like all the looks maxing guys? I don't really know. I mean, I'm very pro working out, exercise. Everyone in my life who will listen, I encourage to, you know, spend time at the gym, you know, rock climb, box, bike, whatever, do something physical. It's really good for your soul and for your body and your self-esteem and all that shit. I'm very pro working out, but you know, Clav's taking it to a completely different level. So, and then also the other question too is like, is he? Because I saw Nick, you know, I don't know, a few weeks ago, a month ago, something like that, crashing out over a picture of Clav where you see him before he looks max, and it's like he just had to lose some weight. It looks like the same guy. He got like a cut chin and just looked like the same dude. So I don't know. Is like all that necessary? All that energy, wearing like makeup and shit? Is that like, I don't know. Look, like I said, far be it from me to you know, dull another king's shine, but I am just curious, like what you all think of the Clav situation. And Dave's analysis, this is a good clip. I was correct to timestamp this one. His analysis, I think, is very, very insightful. Junior Williams 4029, not a fan. Sign of the times, drug-addled, low morality womanizer. I don't see how him being a role model is conducive to white birth rates. Perhaps I'm missing something. Yeah, fair. Like, I think the point is, like, he won. Like, like it's like hacking the system or gaming the system. Like, he just broke it to serve himself, which I agree, but which I think is pretty badass. But also, it's like, is this good? Like, it's kind of, I was watching, I was going to maybe pull clips from it, but it was such a boring conversation. It was Dan Bilzerian was on the Hodge twins. And, you know, you think of Dan Bilzerian now, he's like this, you know, like very anti the Jews guy. Now he's running for government and everything. And you're like, yeah, but like, who was Dan Bilzerian? Was like a gambler, like a professional gambler who like was always on yachts with hoes, you know, leading this kind of like, you know, polygamous, like not degenerate, but like, you know, hedonistic lifestyle. And it's like, I don't know that he's a role. I mean, like, I guess that sounds cool, like in a fantasy way, but it's not really something to aspire to be. And like, that's who this guy was. So I don't know. When we look up to these guys, I'm like, what are we doing here? That's kind of my question. Stacking coin. It makes you a chick, and only gays care that much about their looks. Vanity is a sin. Based. Yes, indeed. Vanity is a sin. I concur. And I agree. And I feel like, I don't know, like I would say, yeah, there's diminishing returns. Like at some point you invest all this energy into your looks, but it's like, how much are you getting back on that investment? Like, what's your ROI there? Like, is it really matter, you know, to invest that much into it? But then you look at a guy like Clav and you're like, well, maybe, I don't know. Not mention the gay vibes playing with other men's hair. Oh yeah, that's right. Wasn't that about the, anyway, I thought that was about something else. Natural looks essentially don't fade because you're passing on good genes. Plastic surgery is dysgenic. I don't know about that. They don't fade. I mean, if you pass them on to your kids, but people, you know, they do. You know, you lose your skin elasticity goes away. You know, that youthful glow that fades, and you look old. Your skin starts to not look as appealing. You know, your things sag. You just don't. You get older. You don't look good. It happens to everybody. So I don't know. In evolutionary terms, Chad Nordman, in evolutionary terms, he emphasizes the fast life history strategy, which Africans use, all about short-term mating. Yeah. Which he's 20. Like, I think that really needs to be emphasized. You know, 20 years old is pretty young for like a dude. It's like the amount of like change and evolution I had from 20 to 23 and from 23 to 28 and from 28 to 33, you know, like those spans of time, like how much you change. So it's kind of like, I'm not using Clav as any kind of a model myself, but it is, I just find him interesting. And I'm just curious what other people's takes are on him, because like sometimes I'm like, this guy is, whoo, what a dummy. But other times I'm like, this is cool. I don't know. He's doing his thing. He's like, you know, he's stunting on the hose. It's like, okay, all right. I'm not sure. But I should acknowledge this is pressure placed on young men by women's increasingly unrealistic dating standards, which result from the alpha widow phenomenon. Like, yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like he's hacked the system. Like, he broke it, right? He got into the source code and rewrote it to suit himself. And you're like, look, you can't hate on him for that. That's fucking cool. I think that's very, very cool. He explained very clearly on Piers Morgan that the philosophy around looks maxing is to improve your odds of social ascension. He is the proof that it works. That's what, I mean, that's my, but currently right now it works, you know, like what's the longevity of this? Like what's the model that people can build their lives based on? Like I said, I'm very pro exercise. I think that's very important. And look, a skincare routine is something that you should invest in, if only to preserve your life, because skin cancer and shit will kill you. But it's, you know, I don't know, like when you start getting into all this stuff and you're obsessing over little details about how you look, it's like, is that really going to have that much weight? But like, then you look at Clav and it won. So I don't really know. But all right, let's go into a little bit of Dave Greene's assessment, because I liked his assessment.
Is a phenomenon that is hard to, I mean, and this is obviously, result was highly celebrated by right-wing people, because it seems to mirror a similar effect in human civilizations towards the end of empires. You see that there is this increase of what they used to call dandyism or degenerate or decadence. This is something that you could see towards the end of the Roman empires and the Greek empires and all this sort of stuff. And clavicular seems to be an extension of that. He also seems to be, and this is another criticism, I'm sure you've heard this, it also appears to be kind of this weird reverse colonization trans thought patterns into straight circles, just like Tinder was the homosexualization of the heterosexual dating space. Clavicular is basically, men becoming men, like trans women try to become women by just artificially
I don't know if you guys are a fan of Shane Gillis and Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast. I find myself listening to less and less comedy podcasts, but I still keep an eye on them because they're entertaining. But he had on Billy, who's like one of the dudes. I think it's Matt's brother. But he was on there, and he would say the guys that take testosterone in their lives are taking gender affirming care. He's like, that's what you're doing, right? You're taking the testosterone just like the trannies do to get your testosterone levels to the level that you'd like them to be. You're taking gender affirming care. I thought that was that's a pretty funny way to put that, and sort of for fellas that are getting a little bit older like myself, not something you want to hear, but but I think there's something to that. There's something to, like, it's like, it is vaguely akin to transing, isn't it? It's sort of like, this isn't the right body that I was born in, and I want to have the body that expresses how I feel inside. Like, there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of that kind of wrapped up in there. I don't know, how front and center that is, or how worthy that is of observation to a degree, like a valid criticism or anything. But it's like, you can't really argue with him. He's kind of right.
Creating the simulacrum of these external markers that are supposed.
That's the term that my generation called it, metrosexual. That was like the term back in like 2005. That's what we described guys who like took a lot of care about their look. Would do like face peels or whatever, and, coiffed hair and very stylized clothing. They called it metrosexual. But this is different. I mean, I still feel like looks maxing is different. But that's more like a lifestyle versus, taking care of yourself in like a European way or something. So, yeah, that's interesting. I think you just exposed yourself as being from my generation. I won't tell on you, okay?
Supposed to, in their natural form, signal either one, prowess in fighting, or B, virility. And, clavicular, it gets like bitch slapped and headlocked by women. He's serialized himself. All of the things that he's trying to represent with these looks maxing regimens are creating simulacrums of qualities that he manifestly does not hold, which again makes him look like a late civilization.
Look, the other thing, too, about Clav's ascension, right, is it's like, how many Clavs are there going to be? There'll be a few other looks maxers maybe, but like how robust is this space going to be? Like, how many dudes can follow in Clav's footsteps and ascend into the same levels? And look, all due respect to Clav, he's getting in a lot of trouble, man. He keeps getting arrested. He keeps getting like in legal trouble. Didn't I see a video of him like overdosing the other day? I don't think your entire life being the show is a healthy path. I feel like that's going to lead to some sort of crash out, some sort of self-destruction, like not being able to turn it off or turn off the content pipeline is probably, I don't know. It seems risky, and it feels like those risks are already starting to expose themselves in a real way. Like I said, I don't think there's any reason to shit on Clav. I don't feel like he's done anything worthy of being like, fuck that guy. It's just kind of like, where does this all go? Like, what's the end goal of looks max? Like, how does this pay off, But like I said, I mean, I've always been an advocate of men like taking care of themselves, or like going to the gym and like, investing in their appearance. I feel like that is valuable. And, it's like that old Latin saying, it's like, the clothes make the man. It's like there's conventional wisdom attached to taking care of your presentation and how you appear to the world, cutting your fingernails and working out and wearing like clothes that fit and all that shit. I feel like that's valuable. That should be observed and respected. But on the other end, I don't know that it serves us. Like, okay, so you think about this, right? You think about like stand-up comedians, right? If you guys are a fan of stand-up comedy, there's 1,000 times more unsuccessful like open micers, right? And that's not a sexy life to be. You're not. It's not. I was an actor for a long time. I used to be an actor in LA, and like an unsuccessful actor in LA is like one step above homeless, and maybe you're kind of jockeying for position about that. People are just like, you're like on the untouchable class, so like, stay away from me, right? So it's like, what about the unsuccessful looks maxers, right? What about the guys who try that and they fail and they don't have the aura and they don't have, like, they can't own it, and then it just kind of becomes like, are you wearing eyeliner? And then he gets his ass kicked. Like, you know, like the unsuccessful looks maxers, like they may be the real cultural wreckage of class ascension. I don't know. It's just something that came to mind, but it probably something worth observing.
Decadent, or one of the beautiful ones from the mouse experiment, which is what you expect to see in matriarchally dominated societies.
Yeah. Well, I don't actually dispute that could be the logical conclusion of whatever narrative line we've been running.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if that was the case, I think it's almost a little bit inherently defeatist to concede that, because it would say that we are playing out some historical narrative arc, and that this is the end of whatever we're in, which I grant is entirely possible. But if we zoom in rather than out, and we at least localize our view to the young men of Gen Z, perhaps even Gen Alpha at this point, I don't even know where the cutoff is. What I see in clavicular is essentially the continuation of the Andrew Tate diagnosis. And I talked about this in the book, and I talked about this in my original essay of how
misunderstood genius is often lamented fact of reality, Zab. I'm sorry.
Gen Z men have gone from liberal to far right, and I got a lot of pushback. But the point I was trying to make is the Tate diagnosis was firstly about men understanding their relationship with power. Because growing up, and I'm sure you were also a product of this, but I remember this particularly well, that to even hint that you wanted any sort of power in any realm was said to like be psychotic. People would say, if you want to be the president, you're a psychopath. I mean, that was, do you remember how prevalent that argument was?
Not that.
And I'll say this too, like when I was growing up, right, like, you know, I'm millennial, it was considered kind of gauche to like pursue wealth. You know, it was kind of like, it was almost like a vaguely shameful thing. It wasn't something that, you know, people aspired to. You know, it's like people would aspire to success or, you know, reputability, respect, you know, maybe, you know, cool, some sort of cool job, whatever. But it really wasn't looked brightly upon as like trying to acquire wealth. And you could also say power. It wasn't part of the cultural pursuit at the time, at least not from where I grew up and what I understood of the culture. So it is interesting that Joey frames it like this with Tate reframing people's relationship with power and ascension and getting wealth and acquiring resources. And it's like, there is something very insightful and valuable about that. And I think that does align with the clav thing. You know, maybe looks maxing, maybe not the type of thing I would prescribe for everybody, but if it gives you a system, if it gives you a pursuit, if it gives you a thing to wake up every day and accomplish, right? It's like that makes you a better man. That makes you a better suited to handling tasks, to handling stress, to, you know, accomplishing your goals, to weathering the storm. So maybe in that regard, maybe in the sense that it just gives your life, if for no other reason, just some purpose to get your ass out of bed and make things happen instead of just, you know, getting high and playing Call of Duty all day, right? Which is something that, you know, I've fallen into. I've fallen into like video game addiction and just allowed that to consume me. And it's a shameful way to live your life. It doesn't feel good. And you've like then the lack of progress builds on itself, right? It just kind of keeps going and going. So maybe just in the sense that it gives you some sort of structure to your life, some sort of accomplishing a goal. It's like maybe that, you know, that's I don't know. I don't know. I do find the conversation interesting because clav is such a unique and new type of person that exists. So it's just like, I enjoy hearing everyone's takes on it because it's so novel. It's so different.
Particular one, but I do know what you mean in general form. The idea of being a white male millennial, and I'm sure this carried over for the Zoomers, it probably was even worse for you, was that you had to be constantly self-effacing.
Yeah.
And this same expectation was certainly not carried over for women, and that most certainly was not carried over for men.
Right.
As a matter of for black men. For instance, like the not to find a point on it, but you see during this period of sort of millennial cultural ascendancy a shift from rock and roll to rap.
Yep.
And that is because if you wanted unabashed masculinity, it had to be located in the racialized other in order for it to be safe. And, I actually do kind of admire rap music because of its unabashed masculinity. I kind of think that it has a certain pathos.
There's a lot of precision in the way he summed that up. That's something I feel that, you or I or anyone could observe, if we were relatively intelligent people who could, put together reality without any kind of constraints. But the way he put that, it's like, that's true. That's what it was. I mean, when I was a kid in the 90s, that like all the grunge and alt rock, that was what was cool. But by the time I became like a teenager, we had pop punk, but that was more, it was mainstream, but it was still pretty niche compared to the dominant culture. And the dominant culture was hip hop. And that was and it went all the way through the 2000s, right into even today. You could even still kind of argue. So him like putting, and that's true. Because rappers never had to apologize. There was no cancel culture for hip hop artists. They never had to go back and like DMX said like really explicitly like homophobic things on his songs, but there was never any kind of call to cancel him or go back. It was like this exception to the rule. They were allowed to live a overly exaggerated masculine lifestyle and perspective, and that was not only not a problem, it was embraced, and even further was the type of thing you really couldn't criticize. So that what he just summed up there, I thought was really acute. There's something to be said for people who can be concise and make an argument and articulate it in a way where you're like, that's it, you nailed it. Like I have like ideas that are close to that, but you just said it. That's it, summed up right there.
To it that I deeply sympathize with, and it is kind of, I mean, it's kind of stupid at the same time, but like I kind of accept it in the spirit that it's given in.
I mean, Mark, your point about even Eminem rape sluts, make fun of gay clubs and men who wear makeup, that's true, but he took so much heat at the time. I mean, he was, all now it made him cooler. It was the way it used to work where you'd say something controversial and there wasn't really a mechanism to get rid of the guy. It was like, he's making money, he sticks around. But the culture was outraged. And look, to be fair, in the 90s, there was cultural outrage about rap and hip hop, but that just died down. And it doesn't align with the longhouse, like matriarchal fascist system that we live in, right? It's like, it doesn't align. So it's like he did take a lot of heat, but you're right. I mean, he took a lot of heat, but it made him cooler, and he didn't really have to suffer, but he doesn't do that shit anymore, does he? He's like a bitch, right? Like he's like a guy. He's got TDS. It's like, not that I'm not a Trump fan. Fuck that guy. Fuck this administration. But I'm not triggered about it. Like I wasn't like, he says he wants to deport illegals. It's a different relationship with the guy. But he was, trying to be edgy by talking shit about Trump. You're like, ugh, dude, lame. So I feel like that's his capitulation for that, right? He didn't keep remaining edgy and contrarian and controversial. He had his ascendancy. He had his moment when it really counted. And then he just kind of became, just another dude, just another celebrity with sort of vanilla opinions. He wasn't really an edgy guy. And there is something about the fact that he was like white trash that has something to do with that too, right? It's like I used to live in LA. I used to live in Hollywood, and I lived there during the 2010s, right? When Trump first got elected, when things got nuts, right? So I lived there then. And, the idea that I would even have, not even that I would express a conservative point of view or a right-wing point of view. No. The fact that I would even have an opinion, right? Even that I would even think was verboten, unacceptable for that like female-dominated world. So it's like, that was so far beyond the pale. But there was something about these girls, they weren't as critical of guys who were like from, say, the South or from different not to say that everyone's from the South is white trash. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm just saying, like, if there was a preconceived culture that came with their ideas or what they thought, they were less critical. They weren't as harsh on the guys because it's, I don't know, maybe there's like an implied, like, well, it's not their fault, it's where they're from or something like that. But maybe that applies to Eminem a little bit, where it's like, well, he was impoverished, you know, he lived in a black neighborhood, he was white trash. Like, it's like they have all these weird unspoken qualifiers and rules about who's allowed to say certain things and what opinions are allowed to come from who. Or maybe it's the fact that he had the endorsement of the black community at large that kept him safe. It's hard to say, but there is something about him that he didn't really have to suffer as much as a lot of other people did. I don't know if it was the capitulation or the other factors that I just listed, but something like that. I agree with you on that there, Iceman.
Shall we say? I like that phrase a lot, right? But you know, this is not available to young men, and I guess you're saying that. I mean, and this, to say Andrew Tate. I mean, this is another thing that like Christians forget about Andrew Tate. They always kind of just want to they kind of want to look at the red pill and they kind of want to drive by it and go like, oh, thank God we said no to the sexual revolution. We don't have to worry about power ever again. Exactly. That's obviously like, you can't do that, right? Like you can't ignore the unsavory aspects of Andrew Tate because he's pointing at certain realities that the Christian community wants to pretend like they don't exist. Like he wants it. Yeah. You know, Christians still have to operate.
Wait, what? His daughter turned out trans? Eminem's daughter? Is that true? I have not heard that. Is that correct? Oh, his adopted daughter. Oh, okay. I had not heard that. But I think, okay, so it says here, Eminem's child, Stevie Lane, formerly Whitney, came out as gender fluid and non-binary in 2021 via TikTok. Okay, there's a few markers there that matter, right? 2021, when this shit was the most popular at peak. And the fact that non-binary and gender fluid, right, it's all gay bullshit. But for them, you don't necessarily have to commit. You can just LARP, you can just play in that realm and get all the social cachet that comes in those communities for being part of being one of these freaks. So that might just be her playing the game. You know, that might just be, you know, her she's in like aristocratic French, you know, 16th century or 18th century, you know, wearing the wigs and like all the powder, you know, just fitting in with the crowd. I don't know. I don't know anything. This is the first I've heard anything about it, but that's one of those ones where it's like you can dip a toe into non-binary and not like have to own that for the rest of your life. You can be like, oh yeah, I'm back to being a woman. I'm fluid back to that. I don't really know. I don't know anything about this person, but when you hear that one, you're like, that's the LARP, you know, put some skin in the game, cut your dick off. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You guys don't know me. So that's not my ideology. Put some foreskin in the game. All right. Okay. Let's move on to the last clip from this interview that I thought was interesting here towards the end. This was a great conversation. If you guys, like I said, if you're not familiar with Joe, I know that he did, an interview with Zeb last week or a week or two ago. But he's great. He's got a really good conversation. He's got a really good like platform that he's built. He's having good conversations and he's very insightful. He's a good writer and he's got a lot of principles. He's one of the first guys I came across from this space that I was just like, whoa, shit, what the hell's going on over here? I didn't know anything about these Gen Z right wing guys. You guys are fucking dialed in. It's like, okay, all right, cool, let's fucking go.
No, I agree with everything you're saying. I listened to you on Aaron talk about the Super Bowl halftime show, and we had a very similar take on the matter, and it's something like that, you know, where I'm in favor of everything that you laid out, but I do believe that things like that are a disastrous waste of right-wing social capital that does nothing but negatives for the movement broadly, and it caricaturizes.
Thanks, Elrax. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, man, this is it's going great. It's very cool over here. So yeah, enjoy the replay, brother. Appreciate you. So they're talking about the Turning Point halftime show, if y'all remember from a few months ago, where they had that just joke of a halftime show that was so cringe and embarrassing. Like, I understood the impulse, but okay, so for the first few years of my life on YouTube, I used to do more cultural criticism, more about like movies, film, entertainment, stuff like that, you know, coming from my acting background. And, you know, there got to be a point where the barrier of entry or the qualifier that mattered was it wasn't woke, right? That became a thing that was so important. And like, while I empathize with that, it has destroyed our culture. It has destroyed entertainment and all that. You know, I mean, how many movies do you watch? How many TV shows do you watch? You come across it one here and there that you enjoy. I mean, I'm just on YouTube all the time because everything sucks, right? So there was the criticism is correct, but the response a lot of the times wasn't like, well, it wasn't woke, so it's good. It's like, that's bullshit. And it's the same thing with this Turning Point halftime show. It's like, well, it's not the Puerto Rican guy who doesn't speak English or whatever, so hey, this is based. It's like, this is worse, dude. We should all just be making fun of the Bad Bunny thing. Putting this on makes everyone on the right look like an idiot. Makes everyone look, being uncultured and just accepting, you know, this slop. Like I'm a millennial, right? I grew up, you know, in the 90s. Like, Kid Rock was cool back then, but even then it was a little tongue-in-cheek. You know, it was a little ironic. There was a little bit of it that wasn't like, yeah, this guy rules. It was just kind of like, yeah, he's fun, he's campy, he's over the top, he's ridiculous. That was kind of part of the appeal. But they keep peddling out this like aging rock star, so to speak, from Detroit as like the face of the right. And you're like, okay, wait, what's going on here? It's like, he's just the only one who'll keep doing it. And it gets gross. It becomes like, well, it's not woke. It's like, ugh, I don't like this either. This stinks. Kid Rock went platinum 7 times. Yeah, look, I liked the Bull God, okay? I had the CDs. When you had to buy physical media, I had them. Or at least one of them. But it's still, in this day and age, you know, he's not exactly Mick Jagger. You know, he's not exactly the fucking Beatles, okay? This is a nominal star from the late 90s, 2000s, right? Like, not even the biggest star of that era. So let's relax. Mark says, I got to disagree. Any type of physical organized resistance is more good than bad for morale. I actually disagree, because the optics of what that was is actually worse, because it's like, you know, anyone who disagrees with the Longhouse and the establishment and this sort of the cultural gay woke communism thing is an idiot and a unfiltered, low-class jerk-off. Like, that's how it makes us all look. And that's not good. That's not good, because we can't, like, it's just like the thing I brought up. We can't endorse things just because they're not woke. That's not a significant enough bar, right? We're, you know, what does Nick Fuentes say? It's like, we want a Roman Empire in space, right? It's like, you know, Rome, right? Their art is timeless. We still observe it. We still look at their architecture. We still look at the things that they created, that their magnificent culture produced. We have to live up to stuff like that. We can't just accept things because, well, it's not gay, it's not woke, it's not a brown guy, you know, speaking Spanish. It's like, that's so what? That's the bare minimum. It's like when Trump supporters tried to convince me that it's good that, you know, what Trump did is he closed the border. It's like, the border always should have been closed. That's the bare minimum. Like, that's not an acceptable, like, mark of success. You know, it's like, yeah, like, you know, oh, well, I was a drug addict who's like $10,000, $100,000 in debt, and I've ruined all my family relationships, you know. It's like, but I got off drugs. It's like, you always should have been off drugs. Like, great and everything, congratulations, but that was how you should have. That's the bottom, that's the baseline. It's where you should start from. So it's like, yeah, we can't just embrace everything that, like, is contrary, bluntly and inarticulately contrary to the gay woke mafia. Like, that just makes us look as reactionary as them, and not worth investing energy or time or, you know, like, support into. That's my thought on the matter. Oh, okay. Yeah, he did actually go platinum, but that was the persona of Kid Rock. Yeah, that was the thing. He was like fun. But it was funny. It was like ironic. It's just weird when they keep carting him out. Like, hey, Kid Rock's here. You're like, again? Okay, I don't know.
I would say people on the side of the right, like us, by lumping us into those.
Yeah, but Mark, look, man, I live here in Texas, right? You know, and it's Austin, obviously, but you know, my girlfriend, and so it's like I've listened to so much genuinely, really point had it up there. They pulled anyone out of their fucking ass, like anyone who would do it, and it wasn't woke and gay. It's like, okay, man, but this culture, our culture, needs to produce something more valuable, more universally interesting and valuable than just whatever dickhead they could pull out of the fucking street who sold a few records, you know? We have to have a higher calling, a higher standard than that. That has to be what we're about. Otherwise, what are we even trying to promote? What are we trying to accomplish here? You know, what's the point? It's just, you know, GeoGaster for $5. Thank you very much, brother. Not liking a band because of politics is gay. Whenever they say political stuff, I think, shut up, I'm playing you to sing. Yeah, I agree with that. There's certain exceptions, right? Like when I was a kid, I loved Rage Against the Machine, but I wasn't really acutely aware of the lyrics. I just listened to it. And now all I can hear is just like, yeah, man. It just sounds like a college girl, like college girl opinions, you know, but saying them really badassly. It's like, yeah, but I mean, like, there's a lot of these guys with like lame politics. Like, I don't care. You know, there are certain people though, where it gets to a point where you actually can't separate the art from the artist. Like Mark Hamill's a great example. Like it's so hard to look at Luke Skywalker anymore and not think like that triggered douchebag. Like it sucks. Like I'm a big Star Wars fan, like at least the original trilogy. I grew up loving it. And now you're just like, Mark, shut the fuck up. It's like you can't separate the two. But thank you very much for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you. Kid Rock forgot his lyrics at the Turning Point USA performance. Oh my God. The last video we're going to do today is actually related to Turning Point. So we're going to listen to a little bit more of this and then we'll move on to the last video.
Just tasteless idiots, honestly.
Yeah.
And so
there is indeed a chud nature that people are right to hate. I want to write an article about like people. There is something about the kulak that people that is very like it is kind of disgusting. Yeah. And we have to kind of like, and you know, like the elites killing the kulaks is one of the great crimes of the 20th and 21st centuries, is the ethnic killing of the middle classes in European countries and in Western countries. But
just so you guys know, because I didn't actually quite know. Yeah, De Niro's a great example. Iceman, that's a great example. Luckily, he's an actor, so it's like he's such a chameleon that you kind of, not that he's a chameleon, but he's so committed to his roles that it's easy to kind of forget that he sucks so much in real life. But so back to this conversation, when they're referring to the kulaks in this, because I didn't quite actually know what he meant by that. Like I've heard that expression, you know, historically, but I didn't know what he meant in this context. So what they're saying is this sort of like, it's like the not poor, but not sophisticated, like people who enjoy like the most normie culture. You know, I think the example that came to mind was like the Big Bang Theory, you know, just enjoying like just wasteland content, you know, this, you know, the Turning Point USA slop. Like, I think that's what they mean by the kulaks, like not, you know, really like poor or underclass or anything like that, but also not sophisticated. I think Greene uses the term aristocratic, like not aspiring to greater, just accepting crap basically is what that's why they're using this term here. And I was like, oh, okay. I just didn't get it. Just so you guys might all be smarter than me. I don't know. I just need to clarify that.
That being said, there is that kind of like demographic destruction of the kulak class is a cathartic expression of what everyone should be doing to kind of kill off the inner kulak in themselves and to aspire to be more purely aristocratic. And I'm not saying that I've succeeded at that at all, because I know I have slid back into kulak habits myself, and it's very easy to do that. But you in the halftime show in Turning Point USA, it was just like chud, kulak, cringe, and and it's just amazing. Like, did no one watch that? And
it's a remarkable.
Why do they always fall into the same hole again and again and again?
I like to answer his question. I think it's because really it's the same problem that the left had. It's the same reason why everything became so woke and gay, but wasn't interesting. Like, it was boring and gay. And you're like, what is this shit? Is because the entire point was a political one. And your point cannot be a political one in storytelling or entertainment. It's just not that interesting. And if it is, it's disposable and it doesn't age great. But the left had this same problem. It's like, what's our problem? It's like, okay, white men run the world, or run the country, and they're undeserving, and minorities and women have all been pushed aside by white guys. By the way, that was their criticism of Hollywood. It was white men who were doing it. Okay. But that was the issue. So what do? When we create things, what's it going to be? Well, it's going to be a strong woman, and she's not going to take any shit from any man, and she's going to be black. And that's, and that was, everything was a contrarian thing. Everything was a reactionary thing. And that's the same problem with like I'm saying, like this TPUS thing. If your entire point is purely that it's ideologically opposed to the other, well, that's not going to be good. That's not going to be something valuable. Like, I made a video about this, about right-wing art, but the action of doing the halftime show that's contrarian, that's contrary to Bad Bunny, is the rebellious act. That is the political act. You don't then need to follow that up into what you're doing. Just the fact that you're doing it is the rebellious thing. So same thing as like if you're a novelist or you're making a song, it's like the fact that you have the principles you do and the worldview that you do, and you're making the thing, that's the act. You don't need to then fill the thing with your perspective. It's like, it will inform your perspective invariably because it's coming from you. You don't need to then underscore and highlight and italicize the point. It's like, we get it. Nobody likes that. Nobody is interested when it comes from the left, and certainly it's not any better when it comes from the right. It doesn't improve. It's like, yeah, okay, it's not offending my values in the sense of like my, the personal values or spiritual values or political values, but it's definitely offending my sense of taste. It's definitely offending my sense of precision and excellence. That's offensive because it sucks, right? So it's like, that still matters. Like, it's just, it can't just be purely reactionary because that's fucking gay. That is gay.
No, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I in that same vein, I see things like that, and I feel like I'm literally putting on Democrat glasses because I see exactly what they see when they view the right. And what's been very interesting to watch Trump's historic, miraculous decline is I feel that we really do see him as the left does, and I can actually sympathize with their.
Can anyone else identify with that? I can. I actually can. I didn't. It was like all these years, right? That grab him by the pussy and all this stuff that the left was like freaking out about, and you're like, shut the fuck up, dude. You guys are so gay. Stop. Like, who cares, All those things. I never cared about that. I never clutched my pearls about any of that stuff, right? But now that he has completely betrayed us and he used our votes to get a war for Israel, now when I see him, I'm like, shut up. You're such a liar. I have that. Like, I think Nick Fuentes said even something too. Like when he was putting out those tweets, he was like, I don't like this person. It's like, I see it now. I see what they were observing in Trump when they hated him, when they dug their heels in and they're like, nye, 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 nye. Like, for so long, I was like, TDS is real, by the way. I'm not saying that they were right all along, because remember, and this is something I emphasize on my channel, on Twitter, the left hated Trump when they thought he was going to live up to all the things we wanted him to do. So they weren't correct, okay? They're libs. But I get it. Like, I see what they saw, or I see what they see. It's like Joey saying the Democrat glasses. I was like, that's exactly right. It's like, I get it. I see it too. I'm like, oh, this fucking guy. Geo Gasser for $5. Thank you very much, brother. Did you know Christopher Lee, Count Dooku, was based as fuck? He volunteered to finish forces in the Russian war. He also denounced Satanists in Hollywood. No shit. I think also, didn't he do like a metal album? Wasn't he on like some like headbanging like metal album, and I think he was SAS or Special Forces during World War II. So yeah, he was a bad motherfucker. Christopher Lee was the GOAT. He's the fucking man. Almost watched Lord of the Rings last night. I was I wanted to find some kind of like fantasy or something like that, and it got late, went to bed. But yeah, no, fuck yeah, Christopher Lee is the man. Absolutely. The Iceman, the halftime was good, if nothing more than for people to practice turning off the Super Bowl and protest. Based. That was absolutely unthinkable even last Super Bowl. That's true. And I think too, like I said this on my show at the time, but I was just like, okay, so what if it was, whomever, fill in the blanks, AC/DC? Would that then like make the NFL not a propaganda tool? Would that then are they going to then end racism out of the end zone? I mean, did you guys? I watched the Super Bowl. Did you see the commercials, the wall to wall humiliation ritual that was that broadcast? I mean, every single commercial was like a fuck you. I was just like, what? There was the anti-Semitism commercial. It was just like a parody of what someone would make a PSA about. You're just like, what is happening here? What is going on? Yeah, it was just like, that is the least offensive part to me. There's so many other issues. Even if it was someone cool at the halftime show, it's like, this whole thing is a propaganda tool. You not see this?
Their distaste and their revulsion. And I mean, that's probably just friend enemy playing out. But regardless, going back to everything that kind of we've seeded the grounds for here is like, we will have to emerge as a separate entity with separate values and with separate skills and divorce ourselves from that like chud right, while also maintaining them as a supplemental base at the same time, because we can't operate as, this fringe of already an unpalatable faction of American politics. But before I let you go, I'm curious about.
All right, we're going to stop there. If you guys want to go watch the rest of the conversation, I highly recommend it. I should probably put these episodes in the description. I think I'll do that moving forward, just so if you guys just want to just click on and watch them. Because, look, I mean, my goal here is to highlight interesting conversations or interesting videos. It might not always be stuff that we completely agree with or I completely agree with or whatever, but it will be something that's relevant, and it will be something that's worth hearing or is relevant to the culture or is a big part of the conversation. So that's the goal with all these. Let's get to the last video. We've been going for about a little over 2 hours, kind of longer than I thought, but hey man, I'm having fun, so let's keep rocking. This is a video by Tom Foe. Tom Foe is another like YouTuber, Gen Z right-wing kid who's, say kid, no disrespect intended. I like Tom a lot. He's done my show a few times. Excuse me, but he's a YouTuber, and his style of YouTube video is very it's very Tom, because he does off the rip. I think maybe he has notes, but he just goes and then puts it over video game footage. Atlas did a video featuring him the other day, but he's a really sharp dude and has some great takes. So I wanted to play his video, and this is coming back to Turning Point. This is about the Turning Point, JD Vance's appearance at the Turning Point USA event that did not go well, but I liked some of Tom's takes here. So let's get into this one. Oh, another super chat from GeoGaster. Thank you, brother. Yeah, he did the metal stuff and fought World War II in Africa. Yeah, bad motherfucker, dude. Christopher Lee was dope, dude. We deserve a better class of heroes, man. We deserve a better class of dudes to look up to, man. We used to have really cool like stars, man. People that like we thought as just dudes, like separate from being actors, were badass. Like we deserve that. We need that back. That should be something, you should. What was it that you were saying earlier, or one of you guys were saying earlier? Was about like, I can separate the art from the artist. We shouldn't have to do that anymore, right? We shouldn't have to be like, okay, well, I don't think about their politics when, or it was like, no, that guy should be based. That guy should be badass. We should like that dude as a dude and enjoy his movies. They shouldn't have to be mutually exclusive. We need that. We deserve that, I watched that movie Hail Mary a few weeks ago, and I had a blast. I really liked it. And then when I left the theater, it was just kind of like, you're like, damn, dude, Hollywood can make shit. Like, I forgot this. You used to just go to the movies and have fun. You weren't bracing for impact of the social lecture you were going to get. You were actually just going to enjoy the movie. We used to have that. We deserve that again. Thanks for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you. Is Dave the Distributist? Yes. Dave Greene is the Distributist. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much, man. Oh, Tom is part of that. Oh, that's right. Tom has done stuff here. Yeah, Tom is the man. Tom is the fucking man. Yeah. All right, let's get into his video. Oops, daisy. Let's get into his video about JD, because I liked it a lot. It was sharp. It was cool.
So Turning Point USA had an event at the University of Georgia, and this was an event where the headliner was JD Vance, you know, the vice president of America. And it was a very lackluster event. You see a lot of people talk about it, and they say there was like almost no attendees. There's a video of people like filming the crowd, and apparently whatever stadium they chose, it had...
Did y'all see this? This was all over X. I saw this quite a few times. That's a pretty pathetic turnout. That's pretty pathetic.
Less than like 25% of the seats filled. Basically, nobody showed up. This was an event that they were prepared for, maybe not to completely sell out, but at the very least, fill more than 25%, and nobody showed. I wanted to talk about and kind of react to some of the things JD Vance says, or at least some of the questions he responds to, because there's a period where he has a Q&A section, and that's kind of like the whole point of this video. And I'm sure a lot of you have already seen this stuff, because it happened a few days ago, but before we get into the reactions, there is something to be said. Nobody showed up to this event. That's one. Two, Erica Kirk, the CEO of Turning Point, didn't go to the event because she said she was receiving death threats, and out of fear of death threats, she didn't go. Her security team recommended, and so she didn't. So she doesn't go because of death threats, but then the vice president of America goes. He goes, but she doesn't go. The Secret Service is saying, hey, it's fine. You'll be okay. But Erica Kirk is so important. She's such a hot topic right now. Everybody's talking about her. Dude, they can't protect her. They can protect the vice president, but they can't.
Isn't that hilarious? I don't think I knew that. I don't think I was aware that that was what Erica Kirk was saying, is that she couldn't attend her own event because of her own safety. But the vice president... he could go, no danger there. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are they going to drone strike only if you show up? This is the Secret Service, right? Like they've got Vance protected. What level of security? Are you the Pope? Like, what do you need that doesn't cover the same security perimeter that JD Vance would have? Like, what are you talking about? What an insane and ridiculous thing to say. I didn't know she said that. I thought that was hilarious. And Tom breaking it down was very funny.
Protect Erica, so she doesn't go. Obviously, anybody who can think for themselves knows it's bullshit. I mean, Candace Owens, she responded to Erica on X, and I have my disagreements with Candace. A lot of you guys who have been here for a while, you already know, but I would be lying if I said I don't like Candace. I would be lying if I said I don't like her. I like how fiery she can be. I like it when she beefs with people on Twitter. And she responded, she said,
I second that. I like that Tom said that. I think Candace is a little nuts. I don't consume her content. I don't watch her streams or whatever. But there's always something every once in a while. She pulls you back in. You're kind of like, okay. You know, initially it was that thing she did where she went to Congress or whatever, and she berated the congressman for, you know, saying that, like, if I could make a list of 100 things that were plaguing the black community, white supremacy wouldn't be on it. And you're like, whoa, that was badass. And then, you know, every once in a while, and then she, you know, you dig a little too deep, and you're like, oh, this chick's nuts. But there's always, there's always like a kind of a soft spot there for Candace. You're kind of like, yeah, you know, she's crazy, she's nuts, but she's our nut. You know what I mean?
Stop. This is exhausting. You pulled out because of bad ticket sales. For the same reason, TP Faith had to reschedule the Pastor Summit and various other events.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for the positive words. I appreciate you stacking coins. And Mr. Mossy, thank you very much, guys. It's very kind of you. Warm welcome. Appreciate it.
Quietly. People don't believe you and don't line up for you because you struggle to tell the truth about even the most basic facts. Where's the video of Charlie appointing you as CEO weeks before his death? The Secret Service sits above your security team. Were there actually a viable threat, the vice president would not have continued the event. Your closest threat is the shit public relations team you hired that continues to operate under the delusion that they are smarter than the public. They aren't. And Candace hit the nail on the head. 100%. Erica Kirk, bro, like, and this has to be said, Turning Point, the whole reason Turning Point was so successful when Charlie was alive. And yes, did it have a lot of donors? Did it have a lot of Israel funding? A lot of like pro APAC people? Did it have a lot of money coming into the organization? Yes. But you guys have to understand, money is not everything when it comes to politics. You can spend billions of dollars on a candidate or a public figure or whoever.
Just look at the Thomas Massey race, right? They're trying to flood his opponent with cash and promotion and all that type of shit. And I have not seen a single poll that shows the guy's even competitive, let alone has a chance to unseat Massey. So it's not like you can just throw all the money into these things. I mean, look at what the Kamala Harris spent $1 billion or something like that, and then even lost money on the last election cycle. So it's like, you can't literally just throw money at a thing and then that just creates the thing, right? It's not to say that there is no money and that money plays no role in it. That's stupid. But Tom's point here is salient. It's not you can't really buy. You can't buy Riz. You just can't.
Or whatever. You can spend unlimited amounts of money and resources, but if you do not have somebody who is compelling and who is capable of leadership and of creating a coalition behind whatever group or movement you're putting money behind, it's not going to work. So out of all the things I disagreed with Charlie on and all the, but that's not important. The fact is he was a very good leader. He was a very good team builder. He was able to go and speak to everybody. He did have a certain level of charisma that most people don't have. He was able to handle not just debates, but just conversations.
So I'm gonna stop there because this is Tom's video. So there's a degree of I'd like you to go watch the video and support it. That's the idea, is to turn you guys onto some of this shit. But what he's saying there, I think, like, especially about the Erica Kirk thing and the collapse of Turning Point and how it's like a non-entity now. It's not something that you can't just swap them out and just replace them. It doesn't really work like that. Like there was something unique about Charlie Kirk, right? Like whether you hate him, you love him, whatever. It's just there was something about that, and they keep trying to like pick up, like nothing happened. Just carry the ball and run with it, and it's just no one's buying it. Like all I ever think of when I think of Turning Point is like Israel influence and this drama around Erica Kirk. Whoever thought that was the right move, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, I don't know why this woman whom we don't really know, who doesn't really have like all that amount of presence and is actually kind of a little weird, would be the right decision. That's crazy. Like you can have her supplement whomever you decide to replace Charlie with or whatever, but it's like, she can't just be you're only going to have so much capital on that grieving widow thing. And like all due respect, I mean, it is sad, it's tragic and everything, but it's just kind of like how long could that capital maintain? How long can you build on that? If eventually there needs to be something substantive to this, and there just isn't. Absolutely Tix Bomber, 100%. I mean, that's just the truth. All right, let me scan ahead here to some of the questions that Tom was talking about with JD that were interesting, and I wanted to respond to. And it is funny. I do actually take pleasure in watching JD struggle to grasp hold of to watch like the presidency just slip through his fingers, and he's just trying so hard to hold on to it, and it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, and it's great to witness. Because look, my personal opinion is every single person who played a hand in this betrayal needs to be punished. Like if not legally, which I think is relevant, politically and socially needs to be punished, because it was such a profound betrayal of the highest order. I mean, it was you cannot say you're the no new wars candidate. I'm the candidate of peace. I'm the president of peace. And 13 months into your presidency, we're already fighting the most poorly advised wars even in our history, with all the stupid shit we've done in this country. This one's the top of that pyramid. Really? The president of peace? You can't have that. So I do like just watching JD like grasp and watch his future just fade. It's kind of sick. All right, I think this is one of the questions here.
So let's go ahead and get into it.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President. Thank you for taking the time to come out here. My name is Dane Hoff. I'm originally from the great state of Arizona and proudly voted for you and Donald J. Trump in November 2024.
There we go.
And my question is that many people believe the midterms are already gone for us. I disagree. So what is the game plan to win the midterms, and what's the strategy to maintain the coalitions Trump won in 24?
So number one is, I totally agree with you. The idea that midterms are gone is preposterous. And if you go back to 2018 and you look at the polling picture in 2018, that was Trump's first term. And what it showed is that Republicans were getting crushed in the generic ballot by 10, 11, 12 points. The worst polls right now, the worst polls, not all of them, the worst polls have us down by 5 or 6 points. Okay. And what happened in 2018 is that as we got closer to the election, and again, the right kind of unified in the face of.
It's like, okay, do any of them have you ahead? Do any of them give you even a prayer at securing the midterms? Do you even have a snowball's chance in hell? Do you have any possibility of getting the midterm? I don't think so, Chief. I don't think so. And look, as much as it's like I'm taking glee in their downfall, it's like, yeah, but also what this is doing is setting us up for the most authoritarian possible Democrat in 2028. Okay, people who've been humiliated, people who are vengeful to come back and crush any type of disagreement to the neoliberal gay communist world order, right? So it's like, not only did you fuck up your 4 years and the country and get people killed who shouldn't have died and spend money and not do the things you promised, you also opened the gate for the worst possible outcome. Nick was right, dude. Nick was right. Maybe we all should have been hotties for Harris. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Of an election campaign, what happened is those margins narrowed, and the Republican Party did much better than expected in 2018. It wasn't a great election by any means, but the idea that this is done now, it's ridiculous, and frankly, it's cynical, pessimistic garbage pushed by people who want us to completely give up. Don't give up. We got to keep on fighting. That's the fundamental and most important thing is the.
No, JD. Look, the thing is too, and this is something I on my show I was talking about this quite a bit, but and Nick has touched on this as well. But it really is like, how much have people given to this movement, to Trump, socially, in their social lives, at work? How much have people sacrificed? I know I've sacrificed. I know I have. I know I've taken my lumps socially, been outcasted at work or in social circles, because of my support of Trump, by my support of the right wing. And what did that get me? Nothing. It got me a fucking war for Israel. It's like, great. I was used and it cost me. And there's this guy in my chat, this guy Joe's Atmosphere, and he sent in a super chat. He still doesn't talk to his daughter because of his support over Trump. Right? It's like, this is what people sacrificed for this administration, for the belief in a better future and a belief of the better country. And what did they get them? Got them fucked. Got them nothing. Bupkis, ugats, and then you want us to come rally behind you? You still expect us to support you? What? Why? To whose benefit? I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not an NGO. I don't have a defense contracting company. Why would I? How? For what? What am I getting? We're getting more immigrants, more war. We get literally every single thing that we didn't want, we're getting, and a lot of times even more than we were going to get. So What? Why? What? The audacity, man. This should all just be like, I'm sorry. That's all this should just be, is I'm terribly sorry. I'm sorry we betrayed you. I'm sorry we sold out your country to everyone who isn't you. Our bad. Sorry. We're going to try to do better. That's it. You think we're going to rally around the midterms? Are you out of your mind? I'm rooting for your destruction. I hope they impeach you all.
People telling you to give up on the midterms are the people who want us to lose the midterms. Don't listen to them.
The people who are telling you to give up on the midterms are the people who want us to lose the midterms. All right. So first of all, the kid's question is like, how do we keep Trump's coalition that he built together intact? How is this idea even being entertained at this point? The coalition that Trump created in
It's not a lot of defense contracting in the Fowler family. Yeah, I don't have a long line of making missiles and fucking weapon systems, but maybe it'll start with me.
2024 is dead. And JD Vance talks about polling. All these people talk about polling. And I know people bring up polling when it comes to politics. I've done it. Everyone's done it to a certain degree. Sure, fine. This has nothing to do with polling. Nothing to do with polling. Dude, you can look at Fox News polls where they say that, like, Trump has the highest approval rating of his 2 terms. Yeah, we interviewed 10 people and they love him. Nobody gives a shit about polls. The country understands. The conservatives, the dissident right, there is a understanding that the coalition is gone. Whatever Trump built, he has turned his back on completely. And the idea that, like, oh, we're not that down in the polls.
It's like he turned his back on and he lit the match too, right? He didn't even continue to pander to the coalition, like even give it lip service. He was just like, yeah, no, fuck you. Fuck Tucker Carlson. Fuck Candace Owens. Fuck Alex Jones. Gave them all the finger because, they don't like this completely losing effort war, no benefit to us war in Iran. And so he's the one who lit the dynamite on the coalition, and they're still pretending. They're still pretending it's existing. They're still pretending it's 2023, 2024. And we're pumped to get it back, to put the adults back in charge. We're gonna be sick of winning. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. That's probably not how this is gonna play out, JD.
It's just like 2018. Back in 2018, am I crazy? But like, I don't think you guys were going up against the Republican Party defending pedophiles in the Epstein files. I don't think you were going up Trump talking about how, oh, you want the Epstein files? Well, you're not my supporter. You're retarded. Why would you want me to do that? There is no files. It's all lies. Oh, there are files. It's just, hey, don't worry about it. Was that happening in 2018? Did the Republican Party get us involved in a war with Iran? Which, dude, by the way, I've talked about that so many times. I got a comment from one dude. Full fucking cope, dude. Full fucking cope.
Buddy, I've run into this quite a bit, man. I've run into this cope on X and commentators too, and you're just like repeating these lies, these complete lies. And we've been at war with Iran since 1979. It's like, first I've heard of it. First time I've heard about this war, this ongoing Cold War with Iran that's plagued American society. First I've heard of it. I constantly hear people wanting to go to war with Iran, but I've not heard that we've been at war with them this entire time. And it's like such bad history. It's like, first of all, if anything, they've been at war with us because we overthrew their government in the 50s, and so then which directly led to the Iranian Revolution, so it's like, okay, maybe that. But also, we weren't at war with Iran enough that Reagan didn't sell them missiles in the 80s. Okay, like we had weapons dealings with them. We weren't so at war with them that we gave them munitions. You generally don't give the enemy you're at war with munitions. That's not typically how you wage a war, What the fuck are you people talking about? Just made up, just fabricated a reality for all. It's always been like this. Has it?
He's like, you do know this isn't even a war, right? It's like, it's just a special operations. It's like, oh my God, like that dude is retarded. But seriously, in 2018, We weren't dealing with the Republican Party turning their back on all the voters that wanted the Epstein files released. We weren't dealing with the fact that they got us involved with a military conflict, whether you call it a war, which it is a war,
Whatever.
or you call it a military operation.
Vietnam wasn't a war either. Technically, Vietnam wasn't a war either, okay? But I'd say losing 50 some odd thousand guys and killing a million gookers over there might qualify a fucking war. What are these technicalities that these people need to jump through to justify your narrative? Look, I can understand and empathize with crestfallen Trump supporters. I get that. But lying to yourself, that's not helping anybody. Just parroting the lines with no scrutiny, no analysis whatsoever, just repeating it, just been at war since 1970. Like, what does that even get you, man? What are you talking about? Oh, they're like, look at you, panicins. We got victory. Open the strait. It's like the strait was always open. It was just a waterway. It was not even contended. And this is your victory? This is your victory condition as we got it back to open? Okay, man, what are you even talking about? Just go for a walk, bro. Go play pickleball or something. You're not suited to this conversation.
Or whatever. American soldiers have died. American soldiers have been wounded.
And also that.
Billions of dollars of American taxpayers' money have been spent. Regardless of however you want to classify it, back in 2018, we weren't dealing with that shit on this level. We weren't dealing with Trump.
Fucking A, Tom. Yeah, see, Tom's a good commentator, man. I like Tom. I guess you guys are more familiar with him than I realized, but yeah, or I remembered. But yeah, no, Tom's the man. He's good. So we got one last clip from him, and that will do it for today. And I just thought this one was just astounding. Good on Tom highlighting it. It was very acute. I was like, oh, that's yes, dude, yes. And it's kind of mind blowing actually when you think about the context of this conversation and this girl's question. So let's get into it.
Hi, Mr. Vice President.
Hello.
My name is Esther. This is so cool. So I know like the whole H-1B thing you talked about, but I am also a daughter of a legal immigrant who came here on an H-1B visa.
Sure.
So my mom and my dad, we've been here for over 10 years. I was born here, well, more than over 10 years. I'm 20 years old. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
That's okay. Take your time.
But like for people who have been here on H-1B visas, it's been really hard, like getting the green card based on everything with quotas and everything. Like my family, we're from India, the quotas are so bad and they're still open and they're taking the money. How do we fix the immigration system for people who have been waiting for the green cards for so long and they're not getting it in time? Because a lot of people don't know.
Did y'all catch that? Do you understand how turned upside down this is? That this girl, this presumably Indian girl, right, from two Indian parents, right, who came here on H-1Bs, her concern is getting a green card. Her concern is accelerating some of this, immigration policy. And she thought the best person she could go to was the Republican vice president. That's where we're at. That's the state of this administration, is that the girl who's concerned about pushing more non-white immigrants into this country, the person she thought would be the most succinct, the most swift at solving this immigration problem was the Republican vice president of the Trump administration. What the fuck? What the fuck, dude? And the thing is, she's not wrong. She's right to do that. If that's her goal, that's who she should talk to. They love it. They push the hell out of these H-1Bs. Tom did a good video about India, and I think, Indians in Texas, and I think so did, not Nick Shirley. Who's the not idiot one? Tyler Oliveira did a video, similar thing. And it's like, yeah, like, This is the state of the Trump administration. If you're an Indian and you want to get immigration faster, you want to get your green card worked faster, you go to them. You go to JD fucking Vance. You go to Donald Trump. That's the state of the Republican Party. The restrictionist, small government, ostensibly pro-white party. This is who it is. How the mighty have fallen. I mean, isn't Trump trying to pass mass amnesty? Well, he has to, right? What's the alternative? What's the alternative to not deporting everyone who's illegal? I mean, that's what that is. That's amnesty. It's like speeding, right? If everyone who speeds isn't arrested, it's like, well, all right, it's not really illegal. It's the same thing. It's like, all right, if coming here illegally doesn't result in your deportation, then it's not really illegal. And now you're a de facto citizen. It's like, yeah, it'll be worked out by whatever, eventually another Democrat will probably, take office. God forbid 2028. But, eventually there will be some sort of system to grant these people amnesty. So that's the only real conclusion you can draw is mass amnesty. Yeah. I mean, what else can you call that if millions of illegals that came here don't face consequences for staying? That's mass amnesty. I mean, that's all that is. That's literally is.
During the Biden administration, to get a green card, it would have taken my family 150 years.
The Biden administration is too conservative on immigration. The Biden administration compared to the Trump administration in this woman's eyes. And there's still right-wingers out there supporting Trump. Can you believe it? They still cope and support Trump. What? Why? Look at your party. Look at the state of your party.
To get a green card.
Sure.
So how is the Trump administration trying to fix that for people who have...
Should we outsource the chuds, Chris? We need to outsource for more chuds. That's hilarious. We need to outsource. Outraged chuds. You're that's hilarious. Oh my God.
Being here are paying taxes and doing a lot of stuff that citizens do, but they can't do a lot of things that citizens do. We're also looking for the American dream.
There's actually something to that. I'll obviously let Tom talk to his thing. So there's actually something to that. I looked into this, and I was actually surprised to learn that illegals do pay lots of taxes. And I was like, that's weird. How is that even possible? And that sort of conflicts with what I thought I understood about this situation. But then all of a sudden it made perfect fucking sense. I was like, if they are paying billions or millions of taxes, however much it is, well, they're basically paying taxes on services that they can't collect on. So they're paying for things, like Social Security or Medicare, but they can't, ostensibly can't collect on it. So from the government's point of view, this is basically a stream of revenue that they don't have to deliver anything for. So it can supplement all their broken, bloated, bureaucratic institutions and systems. This is extra just free bonus tax money. And you're like, there's another incentive. There's another reason why we don't get these vast deportations. They're making money on it too. The government's making money on it. These agribusiness giants are making money on it, and we're all getting fucking screwed. This is your golden age.
American dream. The American dream. They're here for the American dream. We're here for the American dream too. We came here for your dream.
Oh, look, J.R. Williams, may make it extraordinarily clear. I'm certainly not making an argument for illegal immigration. I want them to all to go. I'm very firm about that. Before I started this fucking stream, I had to go up to my neighbors. They're all Nicaraguan. This neighborhood, I mean, it completely turned around. There were Hispanics here, but it's everyone here now is Hispanic and no one speaks English. And one of these guys, parks his car out there with a subwoofer and they're just blasting mariachi music. And I'm like, it would have picked up on this mic. It was so loud. And I'm like, I'll go upstairs. I'm like, hey, can you fucking not? And they're nice. They acquiesce. They did it. But I had to ask It's Sunday. You just pump in music into everyone's house, regardless of whether they want to hear it or not. So let me just make it clear. I am certainly not. I am very much send them back.
We deserve it just like you do. Is it the American dream or is it the world's dream at this point? Like, does it really matter if everybody can just come here and just have the American dream too? The American dream is a lie, by the way. It's not real. To any immigrant that's watching this video that's like, well, I came here for all these things. Well, unless you're getting like handouts from the government or you're completely like committing fraud with the government behind closed doors, which we've talked about several.
Which I heard that there was a new task force. There was a new task force dealing with this. There was an article in The Atlantic that came out over the weekend, which I'll probably cover on my show on Tuesdays on the Foulball Productions. I might be having Joey on. Anyway, whatever. I'm going to talk about it. That apparently, like, Kash Patel is, like, unreachable. He's just, like, I guess, like an alcoholic. Look, this is, please don't sue me. This is what I'm remembering from that article. But apparently, yeah. Like, apparently he's just, like, unreachable, locks himself away, just gets, like, drunk. The head of the FBI. The guy who was going to, they were going to, this fraud task force and ICE was going to deport all the Somalis. Oh, I'm sorry. We meant we killed 2 American citizens, so now we can't do any deportations. Oh, and war for Iran. Thanks for your vote, dickheads.
Times on this channel, you're not really getting any type of American dream. But even if it was alive and well, even if it did exist, it's kind of funny that it's not for Americans, it's for everybody. And if it's for everybody, it's for no one. But whatever, let's see what Vance says.
Let me just offer a couple observations there. So one, I appreciate the question. And two, what I would say is, you heard me talk about H-1B fraud, because I think there is a lot of fraud in the H-1B system. And I think you can believe on the one hand that there's a lot of fraud in the H-1B system, while also believing that there are people who have come to the United States in the past who have enriched this country. And look, I'm married to the daughter of immigrants from India, and I love my in-laws, and they're great people, and they've been great contributors to the United States of America. But I also think that when you become an American citizen, whether your family has 9 generations of lineage in the United States or whether your family has 0 generations of lineage in the United States, one of the responsibilities that we must expect of citizens, and I, of course, it's always hard to talk in specifics about your situation because I don't know about it, but one of the obligations of citizens is that you have to think about the best interest of the country and not the country you came from beforehand and not of any sort of, any group.
What's funny is, like, he's not at all answering her question. He's just kind of taking this opportunity to make these platitudes about immigration and assimilation that he doesn't even really believe, and they're making no effort to enforce whatsoever. But it is kind of funny. You're just like, what was the question? JD, please go back and answer her question. But he can't, right? Because what this does is expose the truth of what the Trump administration is. It's just as pro-immigration as every other Democrat. It's all fraud. It's all sham. So he has to say some kind of, platitudes that, the plan trusters are still want to hear. Which, look, he's actually, if that was something that, was a cultural norm and was something that the administration would enforce, I would agree. I actually do think it's something that you need to assimilate, right? When they talk about this nation being a nation of immigrants, it's like, yeah, dude, like, my family's been here for a while, but not that long, like portions of the family came over like around the early 1900s Ellis Island era, some much further than that, but some of it was, directly related to the Ellis Island, immigration push from Europe. But those people, when they got here, it didn't matter what their home language was. They were going to speak broken English, and they were going to try to assimilate, and they were Americans, and they meant it, and they embraced it, right? They tried to assimilate. They respected the host culture. They didn't just form enclaves where no one speaks any of the language of the land. There's a grocery store down the road from me. Now, granted, it is a Hispanic grocery store, but I go into this grocery store, this American business. Well, I just did bird hands. I was trying to motion, but I was like, this American business. But this American business You go into this business and they don't speak English in the fucking store. It's one thing to go into your house. It still annoys me because this is America and you should be speaking English. But it's like you go to a business, a store where you're going to exchange currency for goods and you don't even speak the language of this country. What the fuck? Like, could you imagine going to their country, whatever one it is, Honduras, pick one, who cares? And you go and it's a store in their country and you only speak English. You can't communicate in Spanish. Do you think that they'd be like, oh, well, this is just part of being No, they'd be fucking disgusted. Rightfully so, as we should be. So, yeah, what he's saying is like correct if he meant it, if he was going to enforce it, if the culture at large was going to do something about it. But this is all just platitudes for the very slim remaining plan trusters.
That you came from, you've got to think of yourself as an American. The system only works if everybody thinks of themselves as an American. I remember having this conversation with my father-in-law, who's an amazing guy. And
he's great, probably the best guy.
And it was actually during a Senate event that I had done where I had somebody who came up to me, and I'm sure a great person, like a wonderful person. It was a Ukrainian American in Cleveland, Ohio. I was campaigning for the Senate. There are a lot of Ukrainian Americans in Cleveland, Ohio. And this person got really agitated at me because I was saying we should stop funding the Ukraine war. Okay? And I still believe that, obviously. And it's one of the things I'm proudest that we've done as administration is we've told Europe that if you want to buy weapons, you can, but the United States is not buying weapons and sending them to Ukraine.
Yeah, and you can just kiss those hundreds of billions of dollars away. We're only going to give you tens of billions of dollars. That'll show them we really stood up to the EU. Fucking joke.
Anymore. We're just out of that business. It's a very good thing. But these Ukrainian American, again, a kind person, they probably didn't vote for me after this conversation, but he was kind of sticking his finger in my face saying, you need to support my country. You need to support my country. And I said, sir, with all due respect, if you're an American, your country is the United States of America, not a place that you immigrated from, whenever that was.
And these clowns just clap at the right time. Clap when you're supposed to. There might as well be a blinking applause sign. Yeah, that line is designed to get you to applause. Is he going to live up to it? Is the question. No, motherfucker, no, he's not going to. That's the point. It's all a grift. It's all a sham. And by the way, he can bravely and brazenly stand up to Ukrainian immigrants and Ukrainian votes because there's no powerful lobby advocating for millions of Ukrainians to come work cheap labor. That's not a thing. But you're not going to say that shit to an Indian, are you? You're not going to say that. You're not going to have that same, brave, badass, patriotic take. No, you're not, JD. That's a complete, facile, impotent, rhetorical nothing of a statement. And you're using it to make it so, look, he's so tough. He's so tough on immigration. What a fraud.
And it occurred to me, and I know this is the last question, I'll try to be quick here, but it occurred to me that my father-in-law, who came from India, who moved to the United States, who got an education and became an American citizen, that never once in my life has he ever said, you have to do this or you should do this because it's in the best interest of the country that I came from. And I think that attitude, to the extent that attitude dominates among the new generation of Americans, that makes Americans feel welcoming towards people because everybody, again, whether your family's been here for 300 years or 1 second, to be an American means to look out for Americans first. And that's the perspective we have to take to our immigration policy.
Whether you've been here for 300 years or 1 second, is that even something somebody can entertain? The idea that if someone was just here for a second, they could have the same level of loyalty as a family that's been here for generations. It's insane. This melting pot bullshit, I'm fucking done with it. I really am. I'm fucking over this fucking bullshit. And so first of all, this girl, she's talking about how she's coming from an immigrant family that came here with H-1Bs. And what's crazy is she's obviously a supporter of Vance, or at least she's entertaining the idea of...
Which is great. That's just nuts. Just say, even if to the normie, to the casual person, right, they would... they should think, right, if like we obviously can observe what the administration's really doing. You know, we're probably people who are way more politically active and politically observant than the average person, right? Okay, so we can know the truth. But to the average person, to the average normie, she should be worried she's going to get deported just showing up. Do you know what I mean? She should think that the Republicans and the right-wingers are just like looking for anyone who might be illegal, right? Like, no, she goes there. You know, like, hey, I bet this is where I can get a green card for my family. I bet this is how I can usher in all the uncles and cousins. And she's fucking right. She's right. She should not be. She should be terrified. Oh, it's just insane. It's absolutely insane, man.
Becoming a Republican, she probably voted for Trump. Who knows what she did? She didn't say it. But the fact is that when she talks about Biden, the only negative thing she's going to say about Biden is like, oh yeah, hey, when it comes to H-1Bs, when it comes to immigrants here on visas for H-1Bs, it takes them 150 years to get citizenship. What the fuck? And
yeah, the Biden administration was too conservative on getting ushering in more people from the third world. The Biden administration was too conservative on that front. Oh, God.
So that implies that the only reason she's supporting Republicans and Vance and Trump of all people is because she thinks it's not going to be the same way it was with the Democrats. It's going to be better. It will be easier. It will be simpler. They will increase the amount. H-1B visa lottery, which for India, it's like 85,000 a year. They'll let in 85,000 people. That's the way it's supposed to go. There's a lot of bullshit surrounding that, but that's the lottery system. She's like, yeah, it's so small. They won't let more of us in. It takes 150 years for us to become citizens. What the fuck? Why is that fair? We pay taxes. We work jobs. Yeah, we know. You take our jobs. And it's not like the South Park shit where it's like, they took our jobs. It's not like that. I'm not trying to be like funny about it. It's just the fact that like, look.
No, I think it was Right Wing Coalition. I think it was him. I want to make sure I'm correct about this. Maybe it was Jimmy Talks. I have to remember. I can't remember now, but it was one of these fellas. This was kind of a while ago, but did a video about working in tech and having like the like the Indians like infiltrate. Like if you get one into HR in a year, everyone who works there is going to be Indian. And you see that, I think it's like Microsoft is like suffering from that right now. And by the way, it's not that they're competent, they're just not white. It's like they're also incompetent. They also don't know what they're doing. So it's like these people get ushered in, gut out a country because, you know, someone, one of their friends got into HR. And then that's it for, you know, productivity, the company. And then like, so these are desirable jobs. You know, when I was growing up, that was always the argument. It's like, oh, they're just taking jobs no one wants to do, right? They're bike delivery drivers or farmers. It's like, yeah, I think some people would probably want to be a tech software engineer. I think probably some people would want to have like a, you know, one of these high paying tech jobs with benefits. I feel like that actually is something Americans would want. And it is like, I think, what's his name? Tom brings up the South Park analogy, but that is the same thing that they destroyed. It's like, well, what about once the jobs that you want are getting taken? It's like, well, all of a sudden the dynamic really changed, you know? GeoGasser, hell yeah, dude. Please put a link to the channel. This kid's legit. He is fucking legit. I will do that right now. Tom Foe is the fucking man. Wouldn't it be funny if I just put a link to my channel where he was on? I just gave you my link. And just like, yeah, you don't go watch my interview with him. No, I'm fucking around. His name's Tom Foe. You can find him real easy, but I'll put his thing in the right here in the chat. Boom. Well, it will come through. There we go. Yeah, subscribe. Watch Tom Foe. He's the fucking man, dude. He is the man. You think Tom Foe is also Gerby. I think it's a second account. I don't know who Gerby is. You might be right. Tom has said that he did other YouTube or other channels before. He doesn't really get into it. He's rather secretive, even to me behind the scenes, about who he is and, you know, what his life's like. I don't really pry. I respect his privacy, so it's possible. I couldn't possibly confirm or deny that, dude.
Look, the only reason she is kind of leaning towards the Republican Party is because she believes the Republican Party will advocate for people like her and families like her, and they'll make it easier for them to come here and to have jobs and to become citizens and to gain the ability to vote. And we all know what that looks like when they can do those things. We've talked about it already. You know what they do. The problem is that Vance's answer is that the idea that immigrants need to have when it comes to America is the idea that you are no longer Mexican, you're no longer Indian, you're no longer Ukrainian, you're no longer Canadian, you are American. You're here now, you're with us, you're loyal to us. And then he brings up the Ukrainian guy and how the Ukrainian guy is getting mad at him and is saying, well, you need to support my country. And his answer, his response is the correct answer to that guy. It is. It's like, well, I thought you were American. I thought you were one of us. And that's kind of the problem with the melting pot philosophy, with the philosophy that anybody can come here and become an American. Anybody can come here and buy a pickup truck and start a business and live the American dream. Anybody can be one of us. That's the problem. It only suits all of these immigrants when it benefits them. When it comes to a situation where they have to choose between their own or Americans, their past country's best interest or America's best interest, almost always, and not all.
Look, this is such an insightful point. I'm going to end on it too. It was, I imagine a lot of y'all are fans of Nick Fuentes, and he did the interview with Patrick Bet-David, right? And Patrick Bet-David is this entrepreneur, right? He's like, that's his whole thing, like, you know, being an American and being successful and, you know, giving people the skills and the opportunity and all these things to do it, right? However, when he was talking with Nick, he came across, I think, one of his friends or one of his past acquaintances or whatever. He's like mentioned that he was Armenian, and you could just see Patrick Bet-David perk up. You could just see the light in his eyes and how excited he was that someone shared his culture. This America guy, this pro-America, and I'm not shitting on Patrick Bet-David. I'm not. I think the guy, you know, does good work and whatever. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate the guy or anything like that. But the point remains that that's the culture he identifies with. Now, he may embrace America. He may even be a net positive to America. But in your heart, that's not something you can just wipe away. You can't just demand that people just abandon their prior roots. It's not something that can just happen. It's not how that works. If you move me to any country on this planet, I will still be an American in my heart till the day I die. And there's no way you can undo that. That's true, and that's got to be true about every other person, right? Like, that's just a reality. And this isn't even a pride thing. It's like, this is true. I'm not going to move to France and just, no, now I'm a Frenchman. It's like, you're fucking not. I'm not from Texas, and I get a little weird, you know, with some of the kind of cultural things. I'm like, I'm not from here. You know what I mean? And that's just true. So it's like, that's how people are. And like, pretending otherwise is so ridiculous. And it's that whole, you know, monetary units of people instead of a culture, instead of a people, instead of a heritage, instead of a shared culture, instead of, you know, the descendants of people who fought and died for it. How about some of that shit? How about some respect on that? You people love talking about World War II and how important that is. Like, why don't you honor the descendants of the people who fought in that fucking war? Anyway, Bet-David is horrible and I hate him. That's funny. Well, you know, it was just more of the bigger point, but that's funny. All right, guys, that is going to do it for this inaugural episode of the Right Wing Pulse, or Right Wing Pulse, not the Right Wing Pulse. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me and the opportunity from Zeb and Atlas. This has been like really fantastic. I had a blast hanging out with you guys. This was super cool. If you guys want more from me, Foul Ball Productions is the YouTube channel. I stream the MFR podcast always on Tuesdays, sometimes also on Thursday. I probably will do 2 streams this week because I didn't do 2 last week. But I believe I am having Joey on Right Wing Coalition. I believe he'll be on Tuesday. So y'all, thank you so much for embracing me and, you know, like spending this time with me. You guys have been very, very cool. I wasn't sure necessarily how the reception was going to be. I was going to push forward if it was going to be negative, but you know what? Lo and behold, it turned out to be positive. So thank you very much, guys. And I will be back. This will be a weekly show. I think I'm going away in May, so I'm going to miss 1 week. But generally, for the most part, this will be a weekly Sunday show where y'all can hang out with me and we can talk about the podcasts of the week that were relevant and interesting. So once again, thank you very much. You guys have a fantastic friggin' evening, and I'll see you soon. Later.